Chapter 475 Original Spirit Race, True Lord. It was as if they had encountered an incomparably terrifying existence with bloodlines. But the essence of their bloodlines drove the Dragon Slayer King's will to fight and kill, until it completely tore apart this bloodline existence. Zhou asked the other soldiers through the army interface if they felt the same. The soldiers responded one after another, saying that they had the same feeling, but their combat urge was not as strong as Zhou's. Zhou raised his eyebrows. Logically speaking, the higher the level of the enemy's bloodline, the more intense the reaction between the dragon-slaying king's will and the dragon-slaying will. And even a top race like the shepherd's god race doesn't give the dragon slayer king will in my body such an impulse. Thinking of this, his gaze landed on the two existences covered in light. He could not see the other party's information, which meant that they also had equipment to hide their information. However, combined with the information about the top lord of all races that the extreme dragon Horus had told him, Zhou was almost certain of his identity. Original spirit race true lord. Zhou took a deep breath. As for the special light emitted around the other party's body, it should be their divine power. According to Horus, as the race with the strongest bloodline in the endless heavens, the original spirit race was born with a small world, and was born with the resources of a small world. There were even some small worlds of the original spirit race that had the ability to nurture life forms when they were first born. Therefore, when the original spirit race was born, they could use the small world as the foundation to nurture their faith and create their own world god divine spark. With the help of their ancestors, they could even immigrate some normal life forms from the outside world to their small world to increase the power of faith in the original spirit race's small world, thereby indirectly increasing the level of their divine power. This was the terror of the original spirit race. Compared to this, as a chaos god race second only to the original spirit race, even though they also had a chaos divine vessel when they were born, however, this chaotic divine vessel was actually not special. It only represented that their initial divine power was chaotic and did not have any specific law stats. They could only comprehend their own law path and divine vessel stats after they grew up. One only had the initial divinity, the other was born with a world and could easily possess a divine spark. He was a natural world god. The difference between the two could be said to be obvious. Only two. Zhou looked at the two original spirit races and immediately had the urge to kill them. However, he suppressed this urge suddenly. Let's sit this one out and reap the spoils later. Oh, come out to reap the benefits after the victor emerges from the true lord and the heaven-chasing lord's battle, Zhou thought to himself. Then, he quietly ordered all the starry knights to use spatial concealment and hide in the spatial mezzanine, waiting for the battle between the two top lords of all races to end. Then, Zhou began to observe the battle between the two through the virtual screen. The heaven-chasing lord led the 8 shepherds god race subjects under his command, and the million-odd soldiers of the Lord Alliance to pounce on the two original spirit races. More than 1 million soldiers released all kinds of martial techniques, spells, elemental attacks, soul attacks, technological attacks, and other attacks. Moreover, there were also nomological attacks released by 8 shepherds god race members that swept towards the 2 original spirit race members. The dense attacks seemed to have hung a 7-colored galaxy in the blood-colored sky. However, not only was this 7-colored galaxy beautiful, but it also contained incomparably terrifying danger. He did not even plan to dodge. Just as the 7-colored galaxy was about to land on the 2 original spirit race beings, then, a pitch-black spatial rift that was 1,000 feet tall suddenly appeared out of thin air in front of him. The next second, the spatial rift suddenly erupted with an extremely powerful suction force. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of all the shepherds god race soldiers, the terrifying attacks released by their million-odd soldiers and shepherds god race people were all sucked into the spatial rift and disappeared. After doing this, the 1,000-foot-tall spatial rift slowly fused and finally disappeared. As for the original spirit race, it was as if they had never done anything. They were still calmly floating in the air. Behind the battlefield, when the heaven-chasing lord saw this scene, his expression immediately changed. then gradually became gloomy. These two guys seemed to have become stronger again. In the past, when we fought in the Myriad Races Lord battlefield, their world could only absorb attacks that were not laws. An attack on the power of laws can only weaken it. It can't be directly absorbed like it is now. When the heaven-chasing Lord thought of this, his expression became even uglier. Controlling the power of laws was their God-Shepherd race's best and strongest method. Now that their strongest methods were countered by the other party, they could be said to have no chance of winning. The heaven-chasing Lord knew that its trip to the final battlefield would probably end here. Not only did he not panic, he even calmed down. Just as well. He looked at the true Lord. True Lord, I lost this time. However, the Lord of all races competition has just begun. We'll have another chance to fight. After the heaven-chasing Lord finished speaking, it looked in Zhou direction and sneered. Then it took out a scroll and threw it into the sky. Then, the scroll quickly expanded to more than 10 kilometers long. It was engraved with the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, and peaks. It lay across the blood-colored sky, looking like it covered the sky. The next second, the sun, moon, mountain, river drawing emitted a dazzling white light that could illuminate the world. After the light dissipated, Zhou and the others looked over with the original spirit race. The heaven-chasing Lord had already disappeared with all its subjects and members of the Lord Alliance. The sun, moon, mountain, river drawing also disappeared. He ran away again. The god of thunder and dark clouds Ansel felt that if they could kill all these lords who had escaped, why would the Lord of the blazing sun of the human race be ranked above them on the rankings of the final battlefield? Ansel calmed down. The lords of all races who dare to stay in the final battlefield at this time must have their own trump cards. We don't need to be surprised. It's not like we didn't get anything. At least we forced the other party to use a life-saving trump card. After the true Lord, or rather, the god of space and time, Adam, finished speaking, his gaze landed on the space where Zhou's spaceship was. Now let's welcome our next opponent. Lord of the blazing sun. Time is limited in the final battlefield. Come out quickly. Do I have to invite you to start? Adam said loudly. In the starry night. Zhou was not surprised when he heard the true Lord's words. He was already mentally prepared that the other party could see through the spatial concealment of his spaceship. The heaven-chasing Lord seemed to have seen through it previously after all. It was just a pity that he did not succeed in the end. Then, he directly ordered Wuxia to bring all the spaceships out of the spatial mezzanine and appear in front of the two original spirit race members. Not bad. As expected of a lord who reached the top of the rankings as a human. Now that I look at it, you've indeed surpassed all our lords in the development of your territory. Adam swept his gaze around and could tell the level of the human soldiers in the spaceship and the equipment they had. Even though he was experienced and knowledgeable, he could not help but be a little surprised. There were actually more than 2,000 extraordinary tier soldiers alone. There was even an epic tier elementary grade human hero. The equipment was also quite complete. The development speed of the territory behind this was simply exaggerated. Those who did not know better would probably think that the other party had transmigrated back from the future. Still, even if this human lord in front of him really transmigrated back from the future, he still had to defeat him and take away his ranking points. The reward for being the strongest lord in the Myriad Races Lord battlefield. He was determined to obtain it. You flatter me, but no matter how nice you make it sound, today, I want to try killing a god too, Zhou added. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. The next second, kill, the same words sounded from Zhou and the true lord almost at the same time. Then, the subjects on both sides instantly rushed towards each other. A fight was on the verge of breaking out. Chapter 476 Fight. Use Insight Defection. Zhou's side had more than 8 million soldiers. This included human soldiers, soldiers of the people of foreign races, and fog monster soldiers. At this moment, they were charging towards the true lord and his subject, the god of thunder and dark clouds Ansel. Facing this scene, even though these two original spirit race members were experienced and knowledgeable, they could not help but be stunned for a moment. Then they returned to their senses. What's the use of having more people? Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, sneered. Then, with a thought, a 1,000-foot-tall spatial rift appeared in front of him again. One of the talents of the original spirit race world fisher. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. An incomparable suction force erupted from it and swept towards the 8 million soldiers. This familiar scene made many soldiers of the Alliance Master reveal terrified expressions. They had just seen this 1,000-foot-tall spatial rift easily absorb the attacks of the more than 1 million soldiers without injuring the other party at all. Could they really deal with this method? They thought to themselves. At this moment, only the soldiers under Zhou command were not afraid at all when they saw the world fisher. Instead, their expressions became even fiercer. They had followed Zhou in battles for a long time and had experienced hundreds of battles of all sizes. In these hundreds of battles they, who had almost never lost, had long developed an invincible will. Therefore, even if they had to face such a strange method now, they were not afraid at all and would only think of a way to resolve it. Even if he could not think of a way, they also believed that the invincible lords and generals would lead them to break through the current hurdle and obtain the final victory. That was indeed the case. In the next moment, howl, howl, howl. 3 divine wolf howls that seemed to come from the stars sounded. Then 3 greedy wolf avatars formed by 600,000 low-level soldiers flew out of the army under the control of Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and Luo Sheng. Moonfall. The world suddenly darkened. 3 illusory blood-colored full moons suddenly appeared in the sky and fell towards the world fisher. Rumble. The 3 blood-colored full moons were extremely fast and collided with the world fisher in the blink of an eye. The world fisher shook slightly and actually had the intention of closing. Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, raised his eyebrows in thought. The lightning and dark cloud divine power on his body quickly flew towards the world fisher and fused into it. After fusion, the world crack that was about to fuse actually stabilized again and even began to expand. At this moment, Zhou, the soul arrow, suddenly drew an ice blue bow from his back. Then he drew his bow and drew his arrow. Countless cold air condensed and finally condensed into an ice arrow on his ice bow. Fake hero skill great ice seal. As the arrow condensed, the surrounding soldiers all felt a chill. This cold did not come from his body. Instead, it came from the coldness of his soul. Fake hero skill great ice seal. It came from one of the 2 hero skills of the soul arrow great ice seal. As the true hero skill great ice seal could only be used with the help of an epic tier intermediate grade equipment, the snow goddess chant. There was this equipment, but because its grade was too high, Wu Tu, who was only at the diamond tier elementary grade, naturally could not use it. However, Wu Tu was the soul arrow hero himself after all. In his hero inheritance, even though he could not use the true hero skill grade ice seal, he could still use slightly weaker equipment to use the fake great ice seal that had its power reduced by half. For example, the current scene. As soon as Wu Tu let go, the fake great ice seal immediately turned into a snow-white stream of light and shot towards Ansel. However, Ansel, as a bloodline extraordinary tier, who had mastered divine power in advance, reacted extremely quickly. With a thought, rumble, a dark blue lightning mixed with divine power shot out of his hand and exploded at the ice arrow. The 2 flew towards each other and were about to collide. At this moment, the ice arrow actually disappeared into thin air. This divine power lightning shot directly at Wu Tu, the soul arrow behind the arrow. Wu Tu looked at this scene and was about to use the flying arrow clone technique to escape. At this moment, a huge silver figure arrived in front of him at an extremely fast speed and grabbed the divine power lightning with its claws. Rumble! The divine power lightning exploded in the dragon claw, turning it into a bloody mess. How are you? I'll bring you for treatment. Wu Tu hurriedly said. It's okay. Extreme Dragon Horus frowned as he looked at the wound on his dragon claw, thinking that the strength of these 2 original spirit race members had actually become stronger again. Then, it circulated the energy in its body to its injured dragon claw. The injuries on this dragon claw quickly recovered, and in the blink of an eye, it was back to normal. Wu Tu looked at this scene in surprise. He could feel that the divine power lightning was extremely powerful. But the dragon in front of him had actually recovered so easily. The physical body of the extreme dragon race is enough to be ranked in the top 5 among the life forms of all races. It's just a divine power lightning. It won't cause much damage to me. Horus shook his head. Previously, it was a super lord that could fight a top lord of all races after all. It was naturally easy for it to deal with the divine power lightning. Wu Tu nodded and looked at Ansel in the distance. Ansel felt a sense of danger after the ice arrow disappeared. He was just about to be vigilant of his surroundings when the ice arrow appeared behind him. Head out of thin air. Soul Arrow Hero Skill Heaven and Earth Heart Arrow. With the heart as the eye, with the arrow as the end. No arrow would not reach where the heart went. As long as the soul arrow Wu Tu saw or felt, his arrow could appear there. That was why this snow arrow appeared behind Ansel's head out of thin air. At such a close distance, even Ansel could not react in time. The ice arrow shot into his body at lightning speed. At this moment, not only had the power of the lightning around him decreased greatly, even the world crack in front of him suddenly became unstable because of this attack. Click, click, click. Click with the sound of space collapsing. The world fissure began to quickly shrink and finally disappeared into the air. Accompanied by the disappearance was the incomparable suction force it emitted. Without this terrifying suction force, Zhou and the 8 million soldiers of the Star Alliance were no longer afraid. He would take his life while he was down. Without any hesitation, they charged at the 2 original spirit races again. At the same time Zhou also attacked just as more than 8 million soldiers rushed towards the true lords and the others. And the god of thunder and dark clouds Ansel's soul was temporarily frozen by the fake great ice seal. He extended his right hand and aimed his palm at the 2 original spirit race beings. Yellow gold tier lord talent. Insight defection activate. Boom. An invisible fluctuation covered them in the blink of an eye. The true lord raised his eyebrows slightly. Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, trembled in front of him. On the other side, after Zhou activated Insight Defection, he looked at the Lord Talent hint. Prompt. You have activated your Lord's exclusive talent, Insight Defection. Insight Defection has taken effect. Lord Talent notification. A total of 1 original spirit race has betrayed its Lord faction and become your loyal subordinate. Chapter 477 Feng Luo's Hero Skill. Steady win. A smile appeared on his face. Even though there was only 1 life form in Insight Defection this time. However, this guy was from the original spirit race. The race with the strongest bloodline among the life forms of all races. Getting him was almost equivalent to getting a god tier talent who had already obtained a god spirit pass. Not bad, not bad. Zhou was very satisfied. It was not in vain that he had kept his Insight Defection ability unused until now. However, what happened the next moment made his expression suddenly change. The transparent ripple light around Adam, the god of space and time, who was standing behind Ansel, suddenly spread rapidly in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area within a kilometer. Within this range, he seemed to have opened up a world of his own. All the soldiers who rushed to the edge of this world disappeared into thin air. Zhou had many soldiers to begin with. Eaglesnov 1-0 retreat. Bai Yin reacted extremely quickly and immediately ordered. At the same time, Wu Xian and Luo Sheng also ordered all the soldiers to immediately leave this transparent ripple world through the 2 hero skills, Desired Military Morale and Ghost God Military Morale. With the help of these 2 military morale skills, the more than 8 million soldiers finally retreated to a safe position after losing more than 100,000 soldiers. What powerful military control! My law skill Exile the World actually only obtained so little results. When the god of space and time Adam saw this scene, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. His small world was born from spacetime as the foundation of the law. Therefore, he could master the divine power of spacetime since he was born. He was the pseudo-god of space and time. In terms of small world talent, he could be said to be the top genius in the history of the original spirit race. He did not let down his talent. Even though the law of space was the most difficult law to comprehend, He still relied on his comprehension ability to comprehend the first spacetime law skill when he received an education from the race. Then, he comprehended several hero skills in a row during his growth, shocking the entire original spirit race. All the members of the original spirit race regarded him as the hope of the race, until he became the lord of all races. This Exile the World was one of the time and space law skills that he had comprehended. It could banish all living beings close to the projection of the small world to the spatial mezzanine. The spatial mezzanine was extremely dangerous. Spatial turbulence, spatial tides, and even some strange and special void monsters could be seen everywhere. In his heart, the human soldiers who had fallen to the spatial mezzanine could be considered dead in advance. However, Zhou, who was in the distance, did not think so. After the true lord used Exile the World, he could sense that this law skill seemed to be related to the spatial mezzanine with his perception of spatial elementals. When these soldiers who had fallen into the Exile world disappeared, Zhou thought for a moment and thought of the vague connection between the other party's law skill and the spatial mezzanine. He had a rough guess. If a normal lord were to face this scene, they would probably not be able to do anything to save these soldiers who had fallen into the spatial mezzanine. However, Zhou had 11 star knights that could use spatial concealment. Therefore, he immediately ordered Wuxia to control all the starry knights to enter the spatial mezzanine through spatial concealment to search for the missing soldiers. Soon, Wuxia sent a message. "My lord, the soldiers have been found. However, I only found a total of more than 80,000 soldiers and have already put them into the Starry Night. As for the other 20,000 soldiers, I only found a portion of their remains and have already put them into the spaceship." When you report it, Zhou could not help but take a deep breath when he heard Wuxia's words. This was the first time he had lost so many soldiers. Try your best to collect the bodies of the soldiers, and let the clergy use the small resurrection spell to revive all the soldiers who can be revived. As for the soldiers who can't even find their remnant bodies, do the appeasement job later. We must make arrangements for the pension and the care of the martyrs' families. Zhou was silent for a few seconds before making arrangements. "Yes, my lord," Wuxia immediately said respectfully. Zhou nodded and looked coldly at the true lord in the distance. Outside the Exile the World, Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and the others looked at the protective barrier. They all knew that if they wanted to hurt the true lord inside, they had to break through the Exile the World first. Only a law skills can break through a law skill. At this moment, the extreme venerable lord said in a low voice. Everyone was silent. Law skill? Other than the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, which had mastered a law skill absolute light, no one else present seemed to have mastered it. However, absolute light was an auxiliary law skill, and could not break through the Exile the World in front of him. At this moment, let me give it a try. The 10-directional martial emperor, Feng Luo, stood up and said. Now that Feng Luo had broken through to the extraordinary tier intermediate grade, his body was even taller and stronger. His might was as unfathomable as a martial Dao master. He looked at the Exile the World in front of him, and took a deep breath. Then, he raised the huge dark red extraordinary tier intermediate grade saber in his hand. Boom! A surging aura erupted from his body and swept in all directions. An extremely restrained, terrifying saber chi condensed on his huge dark red saber. This is a law skill of the law of martial arts? The extreme venerable lord could not help but exclaim in surprise when he sensed the nomological aura released by the other party. This law could only be comprehended by those martial arts fanatics with a large number of martial arts manuals. Martial artists who could comprehend it. Comprehension, temperament, foundation, and opportunities were all indispensable. He did not expect this ordinary-looking man to actually comprehend it. It did not know. Feng Luo had already obtained all the hero inheritances of the previous generation's 10-directional martial emperor, Zun Wu. He and Feng Luo were both martial arts fanatics, and Zun Wu had used the power of a country to nurture his huge martial arts foundation when he was alive. All kinds of factors combined, and the accumulation of 2 generations of heroes, allowed Feng Luo to comprehend this martial arts law skill when no one was paying attention. Law Skill 1 Blade Ultimate. Feng Luo shouted. He suddenly swung his saber down. Boom! A 10,000-meter-long golden saber energy slashed out. The blade was engraved with dense patterns. If normal extraordinary tier extraordinary individuals looked at it from afar, they would probably think that it was an extremely mysterious rune. However, if one took a closer look, they would realize that they were not mysterious runes at all. Instead, lines of martial arts manual words were engraved on the saber chi. This golden saber energy slashed at the exile the world. Puff! This slash cut into the transparent ripple light barrier and cut a hole in the exile the world. However, when Feng Luo wanted to take another step forward, he realized that no matter how hard he tried, he could not advance this saber energy. When Nazario saw this scene, it flew into the sky and spat out a ball of black dragon breath on the gap. Destruction Dragon Breath. This dragon breath specially destroyed everything that could be destroyed. After Nazario advanced to Diamond Tier Elementary Grade, the power of this Destruction Dragon Breath was even stronger. The True Lord's Exile the World Law skill was already damaged, and the power of the law was no longer complete. Therefore, when Nazario's Destruction Dragon Breath covered it, its gap immediately enlarged. As the gap enlarged, a blood-colored stream of light instantly shot in and rushed into the light barrier of the exile world to assassinate the True Lord. It was the Knight Rakshasa Sword God Suen. He had waited for a long time for this moment. The True Lord raised his eyebrows and was about to raise his hand to deal with this uninvited guest. At this moment Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, who was originally in the Great Ice Seal state, also tore open his disguise. Die! A ball of lightning filled with lightning divine power suddenly condensed in his hand. Then, he suddenly turned his head and looked at the True Lord with a ferocious expression. At the same time, he quickly slapped the ball of lightning in his hand towards the True Lord's chest. When the True Lord saw this scene, his calm mood finally changed. However, he could not react in time. Su An's sword had already descended from the sky. Before the True Lord could react, it cut off his head. The ball of lightning in the hand of the god of thunder and dark clouds, Ansel, also hit his body, making his body tremble and stop moving before he could even counterattack. Dead. This guy is dead? We killed the former strongest lord of all races. Oh my god, the True Lord died just like that. Ha ha ha, the Alliance Master is awesome. When the members of the Alliance saw this scene, they were so excited that they could not extricate themselves. However, they did not realize that Zhou's expression was very serious. That was because he did not see a kill notification. At this moment, the world seemed to have pressed the pause button. Everyone seemed to have seen something and looked at the True Lord's corpse dumbfoundedly. The True Lord that was originally killed actually seemed to be reversing time around him. The charred part on his chest that had been injured by the divine power, lightning, quickly faded until it returned to normal. The blood-colored sword mark on his fatal spot also seemed to have gone back in time and quickly disappeared. Fortunately, I fixed a law skill time reversal on me before I came. Otherwise, I'll really die here today. The revived True Lord sighed. Then, he looked at Zhou and smiled. I've used up all the time reversal on me. This place is very dangerous. I won't stay in this dangerous place anymore. You're very powerful, even a little beyond my imagination. Actually, I have some means and trump cards, but I don't want to fight you to the death here. There's no need. It's just a reward for a small event. I'll consider it my loss this time. But the real Lord of all races competition has actually just begun. We'll decide the winner if we meet again in the future. At that time, I will definitely win. With that, he formed hand seals with both hands and chanted an incantation. Then, his body gradually disappeared from the battlefield. Zhou frowned. He took out the compass of the soul of vengeance and realized that the needle on it was spinning in all directions. Looks like he's no longer on the battlefield of the end, but is back in the real world. Zhou muttered to himself. Then, he suddenly realized something. He looked at the time first. He realized that there was less than half an hour left before the end of the final battlefield. Moreover, the True Lord had left. The heaven-chasing Lord had escaped. Lord Father and Extreme Venerable were also defeated by him. Now, the only top-notch lord of all races that he valued in the entire battlefield was the Lord of the Chaos Gods, whom he had never seen before the Great One. However, the difference in points between him and the Great One Lord was extraordinary. It was almost impossible for the Great One Lord to surpass him in ranking points when no higher-level lord was dealt with by him. It was very difficult for the Great One Lord to surpass him by killing a large number of lords. After all, there was less than half an hour. How many could it kill? It was impossible to surpass him, which meant him definitely in first place. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. Chapter 478 Accelerating Violent Storm. God of Thunder and Dark Clouds, Ansel. Zhou pondered for a while. He felt that as long as he passed through the remaining half an hour safely, he would be able to firmly obtain the first place in the final battlefield and become the highest-ranked lord in this Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event. From there, he would obtain the reward of the strongest lord of all races and the title of the strongest lord of all races. Currently, the only person in the entire the final battlefield who can really cause me harm is the Great One Lord of the Chaos God race. Great One Lord. I've never encountered it until now, Zhou muttered to himself. This was not a good thing. Not encountering the other party meant that he did not understand the other party's methods. Once the other party had special methods and trump cards, such as race buildings like the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower, Zhou might really not be able to deal with them. There wouldn't be a coincidence like the Light Sacred Dragon, Ingersoll every time. Forget it. Well, deal with whatever comes our way. Maybe I won't be able to touch the Great One Lord at all? Zhou shook his head and stopped thinking about it. At this moment, my lord, I have something urgent to report. When you suddenly said, what is it? Zhou was stunned. The speed of the violent storm surrounding us suddenly increased by 10 times. It's approaching us at an astonishing speed now. It'll be where we are in less than 5 minutes. When you trailed off, could the violent storm have also begun its final sprint, because there was not much time left in the final battlefield? He thought. There was no time to think. Zhou immediately got everyone to board the spaceship and flew away from the violent storm at full speed. My lord, why are you in such a hurry? What happened? After the lords boarded the spaceship, they were all confused. They clearly did not know why Zhou was so anxious to call them to the spaceship. Zhou was about to explain. At this moment, a virtual screen suddenly appeared in front of him. He could not help but take a deep breath when he saw the scene displayed on the virtual screen. Then, he asked Wuxia to project it on the large screen. A 1,000-meter-long virtual screen suddenly appeared above the interior of the spaceship. It was showing that thousands of black and gray violent storms were connected to each other further away from the starry night. Some of them had even fused together. Terrifying silver lightning would appear and leave their surface from time to time, blowing rapidly towards the starry night. This doomsday-like scene shocked everyone. When you just told me that this terrifying violent storm is flying towards us quickly and will arrive at our location soon. If we don't leave immediately, I'm afraid we'll die here. Zhou explained in a low voice. Everyone, there's less than half an hour left until the end of the battlefield. I'm afraid this is also because of this reason that this terrifying violent storm's speed suddenly increased greatly, forcing us to advance towards the center. Therefore, even though there's not much time left, the frequency of us encountering enemies might increase greatly. Moreover, I'm afraid they're all powerful enemies. Everyone, you have to be prepared. I won't blame you if anyone wants to back out now. The final battlefield is about to close after all. There's nothing much to do. Does anyone want to back out now? Zhou said in a low voice. No one said anything. What a joke. Not to mention how good the Alliance Master was to them. They had already walked here. How could they not complete the last journey and let their efforts go to waste? Zhou nodded in satisfaction, seeing that no one had any intention of retreating. After that, Zhou appeased everyone and told them that he would return to the High Continent in time before danger arrived. Then he let everyone go back. At this moment, a life form enveloped in the light of lightning divine power walked over and placed his right hand on his left chest. "Greetings, my lord." Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, said respectfully, "Welcome to Blazing Sun territory. I saw your sneak attack on the true lord just now. Not bad." Zhou praised. "This is what I should do," Ansel said calmly. "You should have a main body, right? Why do you keep using the divine power light around you to block your main body?" Zhou asked curiously. "Reporting to my lord, our original spirit race has its own small world. Since we were born, we can even condense divine sparks in small worlds and become false gods. Therefore, when we first received education, we taught how to spread faith among the life forms of the small world. This divine power light looks ordinary in the Lord's eyes. However, in the eyes of those life forms from the small worlds, it's a good tool that can easily capture their reverence and obtain their faith. In addition, our original spirit race is the first race created by the Supreme Will. This gives us a characteristic. That is, other than the life forms of our race, the other life forms will automatically bring the appearance of our race into their minds when they see our main bodies. In short, the humans look at our original spirit race and think that we are humans. And the life forms of the other races will also think that we look like their race when they look at us. Therefore, in order to avoid such a misunderstanding, our original spirit race will learn this ability to cover our appearance before wandering outside. To avoid trouble, Ansel said respectfully. Zhou came to a realization. So this was the mystery of the original spirit race's name. The original lifeform race? Zhou was surprised. He looked at him, and his attribute information appeared in front of him. Subject: God name Ansel. Territory: Blazing Sun City. Divine title: Thunder Dark Cloud, Strength Realm. White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade. Ability Overview. The original spirit race was originally summoned by the true lord of the original spirit race after spending 10 days. It was born as the god of thunder and the god of dark clouds. It was also the true lord's most capable fighter. Its divine power talent was extremely good. Later, it was subdued by the Lord of the Blazing Sun on the battlefield and became his loyal subordinate. Skills: Talent World Lord, Talent World Fisher, Talent God of Thunder, Talent God of Dark Clouds, Talent Divine Power Talent, Talent Thunder Immunity, Law Skill, Thunder God Spear, Law Skill, Thunder God Body, White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade Summoning Heavenly Thunder, White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade Instant Thunder Flash, White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade Thousand Thunder Prison Technique, White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade Thunder Elemental Immunity. Loyalty. 89. Potential. True God Tier Advanced Grade. Zhou raised his eyebrows. As expected of the original spirit race with the strongest bloodline, there were actually so many talents. Moreover, all of them felt that they were not inferior to Xiaoxian's top talents. His potential had also reached the True God Tier Advanced Grade, the same upper limit as Xiaoxian's talent. Not bad, not bad. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. This insight defection was not a loss. Chapter 479 Great One Lord. Use the War Halt token. The only thing that surprised Zhou was that Zhuge Liang's strength had actually reached the White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade. At this stage, White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade was definitely a top-notch lord's personal strength other than a freak like Zhou. How did this guy do it? Zhou was curious. He did not hide his doubts and asked directly, reporting to my lord. I'm so strong because I've always hunted the fog monsters alone and enjoyed most of the advancement energy of the fog monsters alone. With this method, my strength advanced by leaps and bounds to this extent. Ansel said respectfully. Zhou acknowledged. So that was it. With the methods of the original spirit race, if they chose to hunt the fog monsters alone and monopolize most of the promotion energy, their strength could indeed increase by leaps and bounds. However, this was only because the original spirit race was talented and innately powerful. It was already difficult for other normal race life forms to kill a fog monster alone, let alone kill a large number of fog monsters, to quickly increase their strength. After that, the two of them chatted for a while before Ansel left. For the rest of the time, they flew with all their might in the direction away from the violent storm. But even so, The terrifying violent storm was still approaching them at a speed visible to the naked eye. The starry night is already slower than this violent storm. At this rate, I'm afraid it won't be long before we lords are caught and crushed by these violent storms. Zhou frowned. It seemed that he had to be prepared to bring the lords back to the high continent at any time. My lord, look here. At this moment, Wen Ya's voice sounded. Then, 3 virtual screens appeared in front of him. Zhou looked at them. These 3 screens displayed the scene in front of their starry night, to the left, and to the right. It was the scene in these 3 directions that made Zhou break out in cold sweat. In 3 directions, dense black-gray violent storms were connected, and quickly blew towards them with the black-gray violent storm behind them. We're surrounded by these violent storms. Zhou took a deep breath. Yes, my lord. If these violent storms continue to approach us, we will be crushed in the middle by these violent storms at the last second, before the final battlefield ends. Wen Ya trailed off. Zhou nodded. It seemed that they had already flown to the core circle. My lord, we have discovered the enemy. Wen Ya's voice sounded again. As soon as he finished speaking, another virtual screen appeared in front of him. Zhou looked at them. Then a life form in the middle of them flew out, and approached the spaceship where Zhou was. Prepare for battle. Bai Yun Wu Xian, and the others also saw this mysterious life form approaching. Bai Yun immediately ordered all the soldiers through the army interface. When the soldiers heard the order, they immediately entered a state of war with serious expressions. The starry night also stopped under Zhou's orders. In the conference room, this should be a life form of the Chaos God's race. Zhou narrowed his eyes and looked at them. He might not be able to tell the difference between others. The Chaos Chi was a very high-level energy. If he used it as an energy source to release skills, the power and effect of the skill would greatly increase by several levels. Among the myriad races, even top lords of all races like the Shepherd's God race and the original Spirit race could not mobilize the Chaos Chi before becoming gods under normal circumstances. There were only a few races like the Chaos God's race and the Chaos Human race that could do this. Zhou looked at the 5 Chaos Gods race and frowned slightly. This was the first time he had seen the Chaos Gods race. He thought that his Chaos Human bloodline would have a special reaction, but he did not expect there to be no reaction at all. He seemed to have understood something. There shouldn't be any low-level or advanced grade bloodline between the Chaos Human bloodline and the Chaos Gods race bloodline. Both of them should have independent bloodlines. Moreover, I feel that my Chaos Human bloodline is even better than the Chaos Gods race bloodline. Zhou thought. Thinking of this, he became more and more curious about the Chaos Human bloodline in his body. His Chaos Human bloodline given by the Supreme Will did not seem to be as simple as it looked. Then, Zhou did not think too much about it. His gaze landed on the Chaos God race that was flying over again. Suddenly, the Chaos God's race member suddenly stopped and floated in the sky. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything as he looked at Zhou in the spaceship. A human lord faction that can survive until now. You should be the Lord of the Blazing Sun, right? The Chaos God's race member said. That's right. I am the Lord of the Blazing Sun. You're the Great One Lord. Zhou looked puzzled, but he was actually very certain. There was no other reason. Among the 5 Chaos Gods race, the one in front of him was the strongest. It's me. The Great One Lord laughed loudly. Then, his expression suddenly became fierce. I have you to thank. If you hadn't repelled the true Lord, it would really have been a little difficult to deal with those 2 original spirit race members who have mastered a large number of law skills. Right now, you and I are the only lords left in the entire battlefield. As long as I deal with you and obtain all the ranking points on you, I can directly become first in this Lord of all races event. By now, you should have used up all your methods in the process of increasing your ranking points, right? How are you going to deal with me now? The Great One Lord said in a low voice. Zhou did not say anything. Instead, he looked at his surroundings through the map. In the end, he really realized that there was not a single red dot on it. Even the lords of all races had disappeared. He only saw a few fog monsters fleeing in despair. Then, something else happened. The violent storm groups that had been chasing them suddenly stopped moving. The Supreme Will is leaving a battlefield for the two of us, so that we can fight to our heart's content and determine the last lord of all races. The Great One Lord sneered. Zhou raised his eyebrows. But he shook his head. His ranking points were more than 15 billion higher than the other parties. He would not take the risk to fight for a win as long as he was alive. He took out a blood-colored token. It was the War Halt token. Activate. Eaglesnov 1. Oh, the token in his hand immediately collapsed into countless blood-colored fog and disappeared into the air. Zhou looked at the surrounding battlefield and felt a little touched. He had a feeling that as long as he wanted to, he could transfer him and his subordinates to any safe place he had ever been. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. He looked at the Great One Lord. Bye-bye. He waved his hand. As soon as he finished speaking, all the soldiers under his command, including the spaceship, loots, and other matters that belonged to Zhou, and him disappeared one after another. The Great One Lord was stunned when he saw this. Then, his expression immediately turned ugly. Escape final items. This guy really has it too. He gritted his teeth. Chapter 480. Settlement. The strongest lord of all races. In the blazing Sun City, when Zhou and the others appeared out of thin air, everyone heaved a sigh of relief, including Zhou himself. Firstly, it was because he had avoided fighting the Great One Lord and protected his ranking to the greatest extent. Secondly, this Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event that had lasted for 10 days was finally about to end. Even though this event was only the first event for the lords after becoming official lords, it had to be said that it gave them quite a lot of pressure. The event itself did not give them much pressure. The basic goal of this event was only to advance to the green bronze tier elementary grade after all. Their pressure mainly came from the other lords from the outside world. To put it simply, they did not want to fall behind the lords of their own race and the people of foreign races. It was precisely because of this that they continued to work hard after completing the basic goal of the event. In the end, their main bodies even led the army into the final battlefield because they wanted to further increase their ranking. However, it was all over now. At least this first official lord event was over. Everyone, bring the soldiers back to your respective territories first. Then come back to me immediately. We'll hold an alliance meeting to discuss our future development. Zhou looked at the lords and said, even though this event was about to end, the Supreme Will would definitely have further arrangements. Since they already had the same Lord Alliance, they had to advance and retreat together and discuss what to do next. Alright, Alliance Master. If it's settled, I should be at the white-silver tier advance grade. I wonder what will be rewarded to me. I should be at the yellow-gold tier intermediate grade, haha. Big Brother is awesome. Everyone chuckled as they led their troops towards the spatial teleportation array. Clearly, they were in a good mood and had gained a lot. In the past 3 days, even though they had mainly been using insight defection to instigate the Fog Monster Lord faction, they would also deal with the Lord faction of the Myriad Races on the way if they encountered them on the way. Therefore, their current ranking points in the final battlefield had already increased greatly compared to before they went to the final battlefield. After converting the rank would definitely increase. At that time, they would be able to obtain rewards of a higher rank. Zhou asked the generals to count today's gains while he returned to his beginner-grade Lord's Paradise alone. In the conference room of beginner-grade Lord's Paradise, Zhou sat on the main seat and waited for the settlement to begin. More than 10 minutes later, just as the settlement of the final battlefield was about to begin, Zhou could not help but open the rankings of the final battlefield and look at his ranking again. Cerulean Planet Human Race, Lord of the Blazing Sun rank, 41,225,120 points. The final battlefield ranking. First, Original Spirit Race, True Lord rank, 28,054,129,380 points. The final battlefield ranking. Second, Chaos Gods Race Great One Lord rank, 23,187,207,730 points. The final battlefield ranking. Third, Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord rank, 22,288,553,500 points. The final battlefield ranking 4th. Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened. He was still first. He looked at the sky outside. At this moment, the outside world had completely darkened, and the scarlet fog began to appear in the air. At this moment, lines of blood-red text suddenly appeared in front of Zhou. Zhou perked up and immediately looked over. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event at the final battlefield has ended. Starting to calculate your ranking points in the final battlefield. Your current ranking points in the final battlefield are 41,225,120 points. Congratulations! Your ranking points in the final battlefield are ranked first among the lords of all races. You have successfully reached the top of the rankings. An announcement that Zhou had never seen before appeared in front of him. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human Lord of the Blazing Sun for successfully reaching the top of the final battlefield ranking. Reward: Myriad Races Mythical Tier Treasure Chest +1, Reputation Rating +10. Mythical Reputation Rating +1. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race Lord of the Blazing Sun. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race Lord of the Blazing Sun. Zhou was stunned after hearing the 3 announcements. An announcement on the entire channel of the Lords of all races? What announcement is this? What's the mythical reputation rating? He muttered to himself. He had been on the announcements of the Lord of Cerulean Planet countless times. This was the first time he had appeared on the announcement of the Lord of all races. Not only had his name changed, the reward had also changed from a supreme treasure chest to a mythical tier treasure chest. The reputation rating reward had also directly increased to 10 reputation rating points. There was even a mythical reputation rating reward that he had never seen before. Zhou felt that he was making a killing. At this moment, a notification appeared in front of Zhou, as if to answer his doubts. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield Event Hint 1. An announcement on the entire channel refers to the highest level announcement that will be made on the World Channel at the same time. It is also the highest honor for the Lords of all races. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield Event Hint 2. The mythical reputation rating is a prestige unit of a higher level than the reputation rating. The reputation and story of life forms with the mythical reputation rating will be known by the life forms of the myriad races. It will even be integrated into the mythical tier of the myriad races for the life forms of the myriad races to sing and remember. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield Event Hint 3. The Lord of all races who obtains the mythical reputation rating will obtain the loyalty of a mythical reputation rating talent on the second day. They're actually making an announcement in the World Channel of the Lords of all races. Am I famous among the myriad races? Zhou said in surprise. Then he thought of something and smiled bitterly. The winds howl around the highest peaks. Honestly, even though he was strong now, he was far from being able to ignore all enemies. Such an announcement was really lovable and hateful. In addition, he was already very familiar with talents attracted by the reputation rating. But this was the first time he had heard of a talent attracted by the mythical reputation rating. I wonder what's special about a talent attracted by mythical reputation rating. Zhou said deliberately. Unfortunately, this time, neither the event notification of the Myriad Races Lord Battlefield, nor the Supreme Will notification explained it to him. Zhou felt that it was a pity. It seemed that he could only see what his mythical reputation rating talent was like tomorrow. The text notification was not over yet. Zhou did not have time to look at what the lords on the World Channel were discussing, and continued to look. Converting to your Myriad Races Lord Battlefield ranking level according to your ranking points in the final battlefield. 10 billion ranking points worth mythical tier advanced grade. 31,225,102,120 ranking points. About 3,120 points. Your Myriad Races Lord Battlefield rank is mythical tier advanced grade. 3,120 points. Congratulations! Your Myriad Races Lord Battlefield is ranked first among the lords of all races. You have successfully reached the top of the myriad races Lord battlefield ranking. You have obtained the reward of being the strongest Lord of all races. You have obtained the title of the strongest Lord of all races. As you are ranked first in the myriad races Lord battlefield, you are regarded as reaching the top of the Lord battlefield of your race. You have obtained the reward for being the strongest Lord. You have obtained the title of the strongest Lord. Zhou looked at the notifications and only had one feeling. Awesome. Chapter 481 The Reaction of the Lord of All Races. And the Night Temple. Zhou had a smile on his face. It was not in vain that he had spent all his thoughts and energy on becoming stronger for the past 10 days. It was finally time for him to gain something. Thinking back to that time, Zhou could not help but sigh. When he first saw the activities in the myriad races Lord battlefield, he thought that it would be good enough if he could fight for the strongest Lord of his race. He did not even dare to think about the title and rank reward of the strongest Lord of all races. He only felt that the strongest Lord of all races should belong to those top lords. For example, the True Lord, the Great One Lord, and the Heaven-Chasing Lord who had reached the top of the mythical tier advance grade a few days before the event began. However, as time passed, he surpassed these top-notch lords one by one under his tireless efforts. His strength improved by leaps and bounds every day. Uncle Wind Lord of the Descendant of the God Spirit, Holy Light Lord of the Radiant Angel race, Reckless Sky Lord of the Amethyst Behemoth race, Lord Father of the Machina race, Extreme Venerable Lord of the Extreme Dragon race, Heaven-Chasing Lord of the Shepherd race. These lords who sounded so powerful that they were out of reach had already been defeated by him. Zhou felt like he was in a dream. After a long time, he took a light breath and retracted his wandering thoughts. It was indeed worth being happy to be able to achieve such results. However, as long as the Lord of all races was not settled, he would always need to work hard and develop carefully. He was far from being proud. Still, before putting down his pride, Zhou still wanted to see the opinions of the Cerulean planet lords on his achievements. He was not someone who was willing to travel at night in embroidered clothes, especially since the Lord of the Cerulean planet was no longer a threat to him. Thinking of this, he immediately opened the World Channel. The World Channel was currently discussing him enthusiastically. Big Boss Blazing Sun is so terrifying. To be honest, I really didn't expect Big Boss Blazing Sun to be able to snatch first place in the Lord of all races. Who would have thought? I originally thought that the Lord of the Blazing Sun was only as awesome as the lords of our Cerulean planet. I didn't expect him to still be so awesome in front of the lords of all races. I'm convinced. He obtained the strongest lord of his race, and the strongest lord of all races at the same time. He's really strong. Haha. I feel that our human race will become famous with Big Boss Blazing Sun becoming the strongest lord of all races this time. I'm a little proud just thinking about it. I'm so damn proud of my race. Sigh. The human race became famous with the Lord of the Blazing Sun reaching the top. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There are pros and cons to everything. Why are you thinking so much? You won't obtain much achievement by being overcautious. Just charge. That's right. Big Brother Blazing Sun, this little sister is your fan. Can I join your Star Alliance? I can even be a non-staff member. I'm envious. I heard that the Lords of the Star Alliance have made a killing in the past few days. I wonder if it's true. I have a friend who's a friend of a member of the Star Alliance Master. Even though that Lord member didn't reveal any specific information, I heard that he's already making a killing under Big Boss Blazing Sunday. Woo-woo, the more I listen, the more envious I become. If I had known earlier, I would have saved up points to buy a Master Servant Territory contract myself, and directly join the Star Alliance with the contract. It's really hard for me to do it alone. It's indeed hard for me to work alone. I'm also tired. I really don't want to be this lousy lord anymore. Why are you saying so many dejected words? Cheer up. Speaking of which, I wonder how the lords of all races will feel when they see what they dream of becoming the property of our human lord. I'm sure they must have mixed feelings. Who would have thought that the ending of this event would be stolen by an ordinary human lord? The lords were right. When the other lords from the human race saw that this Lord of the Blazing Sun had actually snatched the title of the strongest lord of all races from a top lord like the True Lord, the Great One Lord, and the Heaven-Chasing Lord, they indeed felt very complicated. Especially the True Lord, the Great One Lord, and the Heaven-Chasing Lord, they felt it even more deeply. Origin Spirit Mountain, Elemental Spirit City. The True Lord looked at the event notification of the myriad races Lord battlefield in front of him, and did not speak. Instead, he remained silent. He did not expect this either. He had already made up his mind to obtain the final reward for being the strongest lord of all races before the event began. He did not expect that he would not achieve it in the end, and only obtained second place. Moreover, the other party had snatched away one of his original spirit race subject before defeating him. The True Lord gritted his teeth in hatred. The original spirit race had very few members to begin with as a race nurtured by the world. Until now, he had only summoned 2 members of the original spirit race from the Gate of Summoning. Now, he had lost a clansman to that human lord. He immediately felt so heartbroken that he could not breathe. After calming down, he began to think. That should be some kind of law skill, and it's a relatively high-level law skill. It seems to have the meaning of absolute law. It can make us unable to resist even with divine power. The True Lord muttered to himself and frowned. This human lord was indeed not an opponent to be underestimated for being able to defeat top lords of all races and become the strongest lord of all races. After this battle, all the lords of the myriad races would probably get to know this Lord of the Blazing Sun from the human race again. This is an opportunity and a risk. Can that Lord of the Blazing Sun withstand it? The True Lord thought for a moment and stopped thinking about it. It was not beneficial for him to think too much about the future of others. If he had the time, he might as well improve himself. There's a gap between us now. That might not be the case in the future, the True Lord muttered. In a certain chaotic space, the Great One Lord, who was surrounded by chaos chi, sat on a throne and looked at the announcement in front of him with a dark expression. He snorted coldly, feeling very angry. Despicable fellow. I should be the Lord who becomes the strongest lord of all races, if you hadn't used those final items that can avoid battle. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! He was very angry. Ever since he defeated the True Lord on the battlefield of the lords of all races once, he, who was unwilling, had been thinking of ways to increase his strength, looking forward to the day when he could get back at him and defeat him. Therefore, in his development plan, he had already thought of a way and trump card to deal with the other lords of the myriad races, to obtain a large number of ranking points, and obtain the rewards of the strongest lord of the myriad races in this myriad races Lord battlefield event. He did not expect the accident of the Lord of the Blazing Sun to be inserted halfway. Not only did the ranking points far exceed top lords like them, but what made him the most depressed was that the other party did not even give him a chance to fight head-on. He directly left the final battlefield and blocked all the possibilities of him seizing the other party's ranking points. How could he be willing to accept this? Chapter 482 The Reaction of the Lord of All Races and the Night Temple. However, the dust had already settled. There was no choice no matter how unwilling he was. Lord of the Blazing Sun, don't let me meet you. Otherwise, I'll let you know the outcome of snatching my things. The Great One Lord gritted his teeth. The shepherd's divine territory. When the heaven-chasing Lord saw the announcement on the entire channel, he immediately frowned with a surprised expression. That human lord can actually protect his ranking points in the hands of a true lord? He had fought the Lord of the Blazing Sun on the battlefield of the lords of all races, so he naturally remembered his strength at that time. Therefore, when he realized that this human lord was peeping at him, fighting the true lord in the dark on the final battlefield, he felt that this human lord was about to die at the hands of the true lord. The true lord needed ranking points to increase his ranking after all. He did not expect the subsequent development to be completely different from what he had imagined. Not only did the true lord not obtain the ranking points on this human lord, but it also allowed him to maintain his first place before the end of the final battlefield, and become the strongest lord of all races. The heaven-chasing lord felt that it was unbelievable after thinking about the fact that this was hidden. Could it be that even the true lord could not do anything to this human lord? That was why he was able to maintain his position as first place. The heaven-chasing lord felt that it was unbelievable. However, the facts in front of him confirmed this. Looks like I underestimated this human lord. The heaven-chasing lord said calmly. Night Temple. When the news that the Lord of the Blazing Sun had become the strongest lord of all races spread, the Night Temple also received this news. Especially the Lord of the Night Temple, by he and his disciple Rob Allen. They naturally knew about the myriad races Lord Battlefield's activities. When they found out that lords of all races would participate in this event, they did not think that there would be a human lord who could reach the top. They did not even dare to think about the possibility of a human lord ascending to the epic tier or mythical tier. There was no choice. As an expert of the human race, it was precisely because they were powerful that they knew too well how high the potential of those members of the heaven-defying races among the myriad races was. In front of a lord from such a heaven-defying race, it was very difficult for human lords to compare to or even surpass them. Such a thing, they had already used more than 100,000 years to verify it in the High Continent, and even in other worlds. However, it was also because of this that when they found out that a human lord had stepped on the corpses of the lords of all races to reach the top of the myriad races Lord Battlefield, they were extremely shocked. Especially since this person was the Lord of the Blazing Sun, a human lord who was their neighbor at the entrance of the Holy Temple. This feeling, it was no less than a child from the neighbor's house who had been with him for a few years, suddenly running over to tell him that he was actually a successful man in his 30s or 40s. By he and Rob Allen were stunned when they heard the news. After confirming it again and again, they accepted this fact. This child, every time I see or hear news of him, I feel like he's challenging my worldview. But he smiled bitterly. However, he looked happy and gratified. For such an outstanding junior to appear in the human race, he might be able to reach his level, or even surpass him in the future. He was naturally very happy as the pillar of the human race. I didn't expect this young kid to grow so quickly. Rob Allen also lamented. Then, he thought of something and suddenly looked at his teacher in surprise. Teacher, since the Lord of the Blazing Sun is so outstanding, the higher-ups of the human race shouldn't be so calculative about the Lord of the Blazing Sun's subordinate, taking away the Blood Shadow Sword Demon's heroic spirit inheritance, right? He knew. His teacher had undergone a lot of pressure from the higher-ups of the human race, because Suin had taken away the Blood Shadow Sword Demon's heroic spirit inheritance. Not every higher-up of the human race was as devoted to the human race as Bai He after all. The Blood Shadow Sword Demon, Luo Yi's hero inheritance. As a high-level god inheritance, it had always been coveted by many higher-ups of the human race. It was only because there was no suitable candidate and Luo Yi's heroic spirit had extremely high standards and would not easily choose a successor that it had always been preserved in the heroic spirit hall. As Suin suddenly obtained the Blood Shadow Sword Demon inheritance of Luo Yi, this immediately triggered the sensitive nerves of many higher-ups of the human race. Even though Bai He had already explained that Suin was an extremely suitable candidate for the Blood Shadow Sword Demon inheritance, and had even sublimated it to a true god-tier hero fate level slot like the Night Rakshasa Sword God, it had made the upper echelons of the human race express their dissatisfaction with Bai He, Suin, and even Su An's Lord of the Blazing Sun. Now that the Lord of the Blazing Sun had such an outstanding performance, the higher-ups of the human race should have less to say, right? Bai He smiled and nodded. Now, the matter of Luo Yi's heroic spirit inheritance can basically be completely stabilized. Other than a small number of my mortal enemies, the other higher-ups of the human race shouldn't say anything else. In the future, when Zhou realizes the resurrection spots for the three heroes, those higher-ups of the human race will be even more speechless. Rob Allen immediately smiled. In the conference room, Zhou naturally did not know that the Night Temple already knew that he had reached the top of the myriad races Lord Battlefield. He was looking at the golden text notification that suddenly appeared in front of him. The myriad races Lord battlefield is about to end. Lords of all races, from tomorrow onwards, you will have 3 days of rest. During these 3 days, the Scarlet Fog monsters will not take the initiative to attack your territories. Lords, you can rest well during these 3 days. 3 days later, the new Lord event, the King of 10,000 Kings, will begin. Lords, please look forward to it. Zhou raised his eyebrows. It was understandable that there would be a 3-day break. What was going on with the new event, the King of 10,000 Kings? Zhou tried to ask the Supreme Will. Unfortunately, the Supreme Will had no intention of revealing any information about the event, making him feel that it was a pity. He opened the World Channel. The lords in the World Channel was now divided into 2 parts. A portion of them were discussing his ascension to the top lord of all races and the rewards of their ranks. Another portion of the lords were discussing the 3-day break and the new event, the King of 10,000 Kings. Unfortunately, none of them knew anything about the new event at all. They were all making wild guesses on the World Channel. Zhou shook his head and lost interest in watching. No matter what the King of 10,000 Kings' activity was, working hard to increase his lord faction and strength would always be the most important and fundamental thing. He would deal with all changes by remaining unchanged. Then, he looked at his spatial ring and took out 2 treasure chests. One was the mythical tier treasure chest rewarded by the Lord of all races announcement. The other was a blood-red gift bag from the final battlefield. Chapter 483 New Lord Class. The Lord of the End. Zhou looked at the 2 rewards expectantly. I hope I get something good. He looked at the 2 of them and decided to open the gift bag from the final battlefield first. Good things had to be saved for the last. After he opened the blood-red gift bag, a blood-red certificate appeared in front of Zhou. Zhou was stunned. He picked it up and looked at it. Treasure name: the Lord of the End Class Change Certificate. Treasure grade: exclusive, unique. Treasure effect: exclusive, unique Lord Class Change Tool. After using it, you can become the exclusive, unique Lord Class, the Lord of the End. You will also receive the blessing of the Battlefield of the End and automatically have exclusive class equipment, class law skills, and exclusive soldier type class change authority. Treasure description: exclusive, unique Lord Class certificate. It comes from the legendary The Final Battlefield. Only lords who are invincible in the final battlefield are qualified to wear the crown of the Lord of the End. Zhou was a little surprised when he saw its message. It was actually a class change certificate for a special class. Moreover, it was the class change certificate of the Lord class. There were very few special classes to begin with, let alone the exclusive unique Lord class among the special class. Even though this was the first time he had seen such a class change certificate, Zhou knew that this must be a top-notch class change certificate that could only be chanced upon by luck. I have the green bronze tier Lord Talent Fighting God Full-Time Master too. I can have 2 additional classes. Originally, I didn't know what class to choose as my 2nd and 3rd class. It's fine now. The Lord of the End is simply the best choice for my 2nd class. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. Then, he chose to use it without hesitation. The blood-colored class change certificate suddenly dissipated into countless blood-colored fog and surged into Zhou's glabella. He felt a chill at his glabella before a text notification appeared in front of him. You have successfully taken on the exclusive unique Lord class, the Lord of the End. You have received the blessing of the battlefield of the final battlefield. You have obtained class-exclusive equipment, the crown of the final. You have obtained the blessing of the final battlefield, and the class law skill finally Nirvana. You have received the blessing of the battlefield of the final battlefield. You have obtained the class-exclusive soldier type, the final guard. Zhou sensed his body, and vaguely realized that it seemed to have changed. At the same time, he realized that he could only sense all kinds of energy evolved from the chaotic chi in his super perception. And now he discovered another aura other than this energy. The aura was completely grayish-white. They floated silently in the world, as if they were everywhere. This was the chi of destruction, an aura comparable to the chaotic chi. If the chaos chi represented the source of all creation and destruction, Then the aura of finality represented the absolute power of finality. The Lord of the End class only gave him these notifications about the chi of destruction. There were no other notifications. Zhou thought for a while and stopped thinking about it. How could a small lord like him study the final energy that could compare to the chaos energy? In the future, he would naturally understand everything when he reached the level. It was useless to think too much now. He looked at the 3 class benefits provided to him by the Lord of the End. Firstly, the crown of the End had condensed in front of him out of thin air, after he took over as the Lord of the End. This crown of destiny was completely grayish-white. There were 3 small mountain-like bumps in front of the crown, looking ancient and mysterious. A text notification appeared. Divine Artifact Name. Crown of the Final. Divine Artifact Grade. Low-tier Deity Elementary Grade Enhanceable. Divine Artifact Ability 1 Power of the End. As the Lord of the End, the power of the End that can end all things surges in your body. When you attack any matter, you have a 10% chance of shattering it. When attacking any life form, you have a 1% chance of directly killing it. Divine Artifact Ability 1 Power of the End. As the Lord of the End, the power of the End that can end all things. When you attack any matter, you have a 10% chance of shattering it. When attacking any life form, you have a 1% chance of directly killing it. Divine Artifact Ability 3 Obtaining the Final. You can collect the power of the Law of the Final by destroying the Lord's faction. After collecting enough power of the Law of the End, you can increase the grade of the Crown of the Final and unlock more abilities of the Crown of the Final. Current collection progress of the power of the Final Law, 0%. Divine Artifact Description. The Lord of the End's exclusive divine artifact. It contains the power of the end of all things. Zhou could not help but hold his breath when he saw the information about the crown of the final. It is actually a divine artifact. Oh my god! Is this the exclusive unique Lord class? He was given a divine artifact the moment he arrived. Moreover, this divine artifact could still grow. He did not know how much it would grow in the future. Zhou played with it happily for a while before putting it on his head. After he put the crown on his head, he immediately felt the power of the end surging in his body, become even more active. Moreover, he had a faint feeling that he seemed to have used this power of the end to master 2 special nomological powers. Even though the probability of them being triggered was very low, if he could continuously increase the grade of the crown of the final in the future, the probability of triggering these 2 nomological abilities would also increase. As expected of a divine artifact, I'm directly provided with 2 methods that are close to law skills. Zhou was very satisfied with the crown of the final, a divine artifact. Then he looked at the class blessing. Law skill name, Final Nirvana. Law skill quality, Master God tier advanced grade. Nomological skill power description. When the Lord of the End destroys kingdom level and above Lord factions, you can obtain a different amount of final Nirvana power according to the strength of the Lord faction destroyed. Consumption of the corresponding amount of final Nirvana power can immediately revive the Lord of the End after the Lord dies and greatly increase your strength. Current power of final Nirvana. Zhou could not help but hold his breath after reading it. Resurrection. In that case, other than relying on the Goddess of Lives' large and small resurrection spell to revive, he had a new resurrection method. A smile appeared on his face. No matter how many methods he used, he could not have too many of them. The advancement of the crown of the final requires the power of the law of the final to be obtained by destroying the Lord's faction. And the release of the final Nirvana also needs to obtain the power of the final Nirvana by destroying kingdom level and Lord factions above the kingdom level. The Lord of the End is really a profession that likes to cause trouble. Zhou muttered to himself. However, he didn't care. As a lord of all races, he had to constantly attack the forces of the other lords and the Scarlet Lords. In his opinion, he could easily complete the Lord of the End's request. Chapter 484 Mythical Tier Treasure Chest. Supreme Defense. He turned his attention to the Lord of the End's professional soldier type. The Final Guard. Soldier type. The Final Guard. Soldier type quality. Divine Kingdom tier. Soldier type creation method. When the Lord of the End leads the Lord faction under him to conquer a kingdom level or above Lord faction, you can automatically obtain the loyalty of a member of the final guard. Soldier type description. The exclusive soldier type of the Lord of the End. A terrifying life form born in the End. It will live and die with the Lord of the End. It has a body that can constantly be reborn. Moreover, it has mastered the laws of shattering and instant death. Even God spirits will be afraid of their weapons. When Zhou saw the soldier type information of the final guards, he was both shocked and pleasantly surprised. It was actually a Divine Kingdom tier soldier type. A soldier type of the same grade as Soul Reaper Maris. Divine Kingdom tier soldier types were almost exclusive to those Divine Kingdom factions. Even the legendary Master God tier would value and rely on soldiers of this level. Zhou only had the Lord talent, the King of Loots, which was why he had the Soul Reaper, Maris at the current stage. And now, he, a lord who had not even established a kingdom, had actually obtained a stable channel to obtain Divine Kingdom soldier types. Even if it was very difficult to achieve its conditions, and needed to conquer kingdom level, and lord factions, above the kingdom level to obtain it, it was very rare. Zhou was really shocked. Only then did he realize how precious the Lord of the End class was. Since it could create Divine Kingdom soldier types, it could only prove that its professional grade was at least not inferior to a god tier. Suddenly, an idea flashed across his mind. The Taiyan Kingdom has already suffered a huge loss. It might even be less than 10% of its strength left. King Li Yuangan of the Aurora Kingdom has also promised to give the Aurora Kingdom to me. If I send troops to take down the Taiyan Kingdom, and accept Li Yuangan's Aurora Kingdom, will I directly obtain 2 sets of the power of the Final Nirvana, and 2 members of the Final Nirvana Guard? The more Zhou thought about it, the more excited he became. If his guess was true, the Taiyan Kingdom and the Aurora Kingdom were 2 great treasures to him. He only calmed down after a long time. From tomorrow onwards, the next 3 days are a rest period. Zhou thought. With the military strength he currently had, and the military strength of the Lord Alliance, not to mention a beginner Crimson Kingdom, with less than 10% of its national strength, he was confident that he could easily take down even 3 Taiyan Kingdoms at their peak. There was no reason for Zhou not to eat the meat that was delivered to his mouth. Then he looked at the other mythical tier treasure chest. This treasure chest was completely black in gold. It was 2 meters long and half a meter wide. On the surface, there were ancient paintings that seemed to depict the scene of life forms of all races living together. Zhou took a deep breath and opened it. An ancient black gold ring-shaped city wall model was lying quietly inside. Zhou raised his eyebrows. He looked over, and a text notification appeared. Building name: Supreme Defense, Construction Level, True God Tier Advanced Grade. Building Function 1, Wall of Myriad City. After using the Supreme Defense in the main city, the city walls of the original owner's city will be replaced by the Supreme Defense City Wall. At the same time, the city walls of the subsidiary cities of the main city can be replaced by the same Supreme Defense City Wall. Building Function 2 Growth. The level of the Supreme Defense's city wall will automatically increase as the city level increases. The highest level can automatically increase to the True God Tier Advanced Grade City Wall. At the same time, the Supreme Defense will automatically be immune to any stats attack below the level of the city wall. When the Supreme Defense is broken by attacks above the level of the city wall, it can be repaired by replenishing building materials. Construction Blueprint Effect 3. Absolute Defense. The Supreme Defense can activate Absolute Defense for 1 to 10 seconds a day. During this period, you will be immune to any stats attack of any level. The duration of Absolute Defense depends on the level of the city wall. Building Description: The mythical tier legendary Supreme Defense. It was once damaged because it participated in a divine battle with countless casualties. Later, it was repaired by the Supreme Will and awarded to the number 1 Lord of the Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event. Do you want to use it? Zhou widened his eyes slightly. The 3 city wall abilities of the Supreme Defense were all top grade. The first could save him a large amount of materials and time to build the city wall. When he asked Zhao Chong to guard the first city wall of the territory, he had spent a lot of building materials and time, leaving a deep impression on him. It was naturally the best if the supreme defense had such a top-grade effect. Moreover, he would not have to worry about the city walls of the new city in the future. After obtaining a new city, he could just let the supreme defense be the new city wall. In the future, he could use the supreme defense on the city walls of all his territories. In the future, he could use the supreme defense on the city walls of all his territories. The second city wall effect was even better. Not only could the level of the city wall increase as the territory level increased, but it could also be immune to attacks below the level of the city wall. If the lords of all races saw these stats, they would definitely be extremely envious and jealous of him. The third absolute defense did not seem to last long. However, if it could be used at a critical moment, it might be able to save the lives of all the subjects in the city. As expected of a mythical tier treasure chest, this reward is too top grade. Zhou eyes lit up. Then, he immediately brought the supreme defense to the beginner grade Lord's Paradise. Then, he asked the soldiers guarding the city wall to immediately get off the city wall through the army interface. Even though the soldiers did not understand Zhou's orders, they still quickly ran down from the city wall. The soldiers made a little too much noise. Many residents and soldiers could not help but walk out to watch. Bai Yun Wuxia and the others also walked out. Seeing this, Zhou asked them to start evacuating the soldiers and subjects around the city wall to avoid accidentally injuring them later. Bai Yun and the others immediately accepted the order. A moment later, Zhou smiled after everything was arranged. He did not explain even though he was facing everyone's puzzled gazes. Then, his gaze landed on the supreme defense model in his hand. His eyes burned. Use it. As soon as he finished speaking, the supreme defense model suddenly turned into grayish-white light and fell from Zhou's hand. Then it fused into the ground. Rumble! The ground suddenly shook faintly. Everyone was stunned for a moment before fear immediately appeared in their eyes. What was going on? Has the Earth Dragon made a comeback? At this moment, waves of exclamations suddenly sounded. Then many people's gazes landed on the distant city wall. The white silver tier light elemental city wall, made of light origin stone in the distance, was actually on the verge of collapse. Just as everyone was worried that the city wall was about to collapse, suddenly, a piece of the city wall skin fell off, and what was revealed inside was not a dilapidated city wall brick, but a brand new black and gold wall. More and more of the city wall skin fell off, revealing more and more black gold walls. Bai Yun Wuxia, Feng Luo, Zhao Changshou, the chief architect of the Blazing Sun territory, Vice City Lord Zheng Yuanqi, Martial Master Luo Feng, Physician Bai Yuejing. All the Blazing Sun territory subjects who saw this scene were stunned. Chapter 485 The Reward of the Strongest Lord. Faceless Ancestor Statue of the Cerulean Planet Human Race. A moment later, the trembling of the ground gradually stopped. The city wall in front of him had also changed from the original black city wall to a brand new black gold city wall. From afar, an invisible might and pressure came at him. Accompanying this feeling was the complete sense of security it brought to the Blazing Sun territory subjects. Even though everyone did not know what the defensive effect of this city wall was, everyone subconsciously trusted its defense, just based on the appearance of this city wall. Don't panic. This is a treasure awarded to us by the Supreme Will. Its name is Supreme Defense. In the future, every time we own a city, such city walls will be pulled out from the ground to protect our home. Don't be too flustered. Zhou looked at everyone and told them the other two abilities of the Supreme Defense other than Absolute Defense. Everyone was extremely excited. If this Supreme Defense was really as powerful as the Lord said, they would not have to worry about the defense of the city wall in the future. Especially Zhao Changshou. He had always been in charge of the construction of the city wall. He was also very serious about the construction of this area. However, the highest grade building material in the Blazing Sun territory was the white silver tier light origin stone. This was even evolved from the green bronze tier building material, the light drawing crystal, after absorbing light elemental energy for a few days. Therefore, before the Supreme Defense appeared, the level of the city wall of the Blazing Sun territory was limited by the materials. It had always been at the White-Silver tier advance grade, and could not be further upgraded. This was timely. With this Supreme Defense, he would not have to worry about the construction of the city wall for a long time in the future. He could completely focus on the other buildings in the territory. On the other side, as the Lord of the Blazing Sun territory, Zhou was naturally the most satisfied with the appearance of the Supreme Defense. He did not have to worry about the defense of Blazing Sun City's city wall not being strong enough. Before the Supreme Defense's city wall level increased to True God tier advance grade. Then he looked at the defense time of the Supreme Defense absolute defense. He realized that its absolute defense time was 5 seconds. 5 seconds? Zhou muttered to himself. The longest defense time for absolute defense was 10 seconds. Now, his territory level was White Platinum tier intermediate grade, and the absolute defense time had become 5 seconds. Would the absolute defense duration of the Supreme Defense increase by 1 second every time it increases by a large level? Zhou was not too sure. Therefore, he thought for a moment and brought Bai Yun, Wuxia, Zhao Changshou, and the other key figures of Blazing Sun City to Kingdom Beginning City through the teleportation array. At this moment, the city wall of Wuxia City had already been replaced by the Supreme Defense. This was because Kingdom Beginning City was also a White Platinum tier intermediate grade city. Therefore, the Supreme Defense that had been replaced was also at the White Platinum tier intermediate grade. Zhou looked at its attribute information. The information about discovering its absolute defense was indeed the same as the city wall of Blazing Sun City. It took 5 seconds. Zhou nodded. It seemed that the absolute defense duration would indeed increase by 1 second with every level increase. But he felt that it was a pity. If not for the 2 White Platinum tier cities in the upgrade requirements of the Blazing Sun territory, excluding Blazing Sun City itself, he would have been able to upgrade his territory to the White Platinum tier advance grade. However, he didn't care. Less than 10% of the Taiyan Kingdom's strength remained. Tomorrow, he could lead his troops to the Taiyan Kingdom and casually conquer it. He could obtain a White Platinum tier or even higher level city and territory. At that time he could naturally level up easily. After that, he told his generals and architects about the timing of the absolute defense. If a powerful enemy attacks one day, and am not around and you can't block it, you can use this absolute defense to fight the enemy. Zhou said. Yes, my lord. X and everyone said respectfully. Zhou nodded. Then, he did not say anything else, and returned to Blazing Sun City with his subordinates through the spatial teleportation array. Blazing Sun City. After everyone returned, Bai Yun, Wuxia, and the others brought the soldiers to the triumphal arch. Zhou was not in a hurry to go. Instead, he returned to his beginner Lord Blessed Land and looked at the other event rewards. He still did not have the event rewards to check. There were also the rewards for the strongest lord of all races, the title of the strongest lord of all races, the rewards for the strongest lord, and the title of the strongest lord. Zhou first looked at the reward for the strongest lord of the same race, and the title of the strongest lord. The reward for the strongest lord was a faceless statue. Zhou looked over, and a text notification appeared. Treasure name: Faceless Ancestor Statue of the Human Race of Cerulean Planet. Treasure grade: Legendary tier, Treasure effect. Use it on a Cerulean Planet Ancestor Statue of the Human Race, and immediately upgrade it to the Legendary tier Ancestor Statue. Treasure description: a promotion treasure specially used by the Ancestor Statue of the Human Race on Cerulean Planet. You can use this to find the lost part of the Ancestor Statue and upgrade it to a higher level. From there, you will have a stronger Ancestor Statue enhancement effect. Zhou was a little surprised. It was actually a treasure that could help the Ancestor Statue advance. The strongest lord of the same race only rewards one legendary tier treasure? Zhou thought about it and felt that it was normal. After all, being ranked first in the myriad races Lord Battlefield was indeed not worth mentioning. The rank of the Lord Battlefield was the most important. For example, Zhou himself. The highest honor of a lord of the same race was completely free. Under such circumstances, it was already very good to give him a legendary tier treasure. He was not in a hurry to see what the reward for the title of the strongest lord was. He directly took this faceless cerulean planet ancestor statue to the Imperial Ancestral Temple. In the Imperial Ancestral Temple, a faint smell of agarwood filled the main hall, making Zhou, who had just arrived, feel at ease. He looked at the shrine on the altar in front of him. There were already 5 shrines worshipped here. The 2 shrines on the rightmost side did not consecrate the new ancestor of the human race on Cerulean Planet. In the 3 shrines on the left, there were respectively the yellow gold tier ancestor statue, Sun Simiao, the yellow gold tier ancestor statue, Liu Bei, and the white silver tier ancestor statue, Gong Shiban. Zhou looked at the 3 ancestor statues and could not help but fall into deep thought. He had to choose one of the faceless cerulean planet ancestor statue in his hand to advance. Which one should I choose? Zhou was a little conflicted. Whether it was Ancestor Sun Simiao's essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies, Ancestor Liu Bai's subduing people with virtue, or Ancestor Gong Shiban's heart of the craftsman. Zhou liked these 3 ancestral enhancements very much and wanted to upgrade them. As for keeping it for stronger ancestral statues in the future, such as the Yellow Emperor, Shen, Fuxi, and other ancestors, Zhou thought for a moment and gave up. Even with the King of Lutes, Zhou had only obtained 3 ancestor statues. Moreover, 2 of them were bought from other cerulean planet lords. It could be seen how rare they were. There were many ancestors on the cerulean planet. Zhou did not think that he could obtain ancestor statues at the level of the Yellow Emperor and Shen in a short period of time. It was better to have a bird in hand than to have 1,000 birds in the forest. Therefore, Zhou felt that it was better to use it now. Chapter 486 Legendary Tier. Essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. Summoning Sun Simiao. A moment later, Zhou took a deep breath and came to Sun Simiao's statue. In the end, he decided to advance Ancestor Sun Simiao to the legendary tier. The main reason was that Sun Simiao's ancestral enhancement was in medicine. Zhou felt that his territory was a war-type territory. To a war-type territory, the strength of the medical path could naturally greatly increase the combat strength of the army. In comparison, Liu Bai's ancestral enhancement, Subdue People with Virtue, focused on increasing his loyalty. In this aspect, he had the more perfect and powerful peace and prosperity. Actually, his needs in this aspect were not very high. Gong Shiban's ancestral enhancement was to increase the efficiency of building buildings and war machines. In this aspect, it was also inferior to Sun Simiao's medical skills. That was why Zhou decided to use the faceless cerulean planet ancestor statue on Ancestor Sun Simiao. Of course, he actually also had another personal reason. That was the soul of Sun Simiao, whom he had seen living in the essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. After the 2 of them communicated a few times, Zhou inevitably had a good impression of this kind old senior herb king. Therefore, he also wanted to raise Ancestor Sun Simiao to a higher realm. After making a decision, Zhou no longer hesitated. He looked at the faceless ancestor statue of the human race on Cerulean Planet in front of him and chanted to use it in his heart. The target was Sun Simiao. The faceless Cerulean Planet ancestor statue in his hand suddenly emitted a purple light. Then this light surged into Ancestor Sun Simiao's statue. The statue of Ancestor Sun Simiao also emitted a dazzling purple light. This purple light enveloped the entire Imperial Ancestral Temple. After a long time, it gradually entered the statue of Ancestor Sun Simiao. Subjects who were not asleep, as well as many life forms with powerful perception, such as Ingasol Nazario, Haris Suan, Bai Yen Wu Xian, and Feng Luo, all discovered this phenomenon. However, when they realized that the source of the light was the Imperial Ancestral Temple, and that the Lord inside did not do anything, they knew that this should be the Lord's doing, and did not care much. In the main hall of the Imperial Ancestral Temple, Zhou Zhou looked at the statue of ancestor Sun Simiao that seemed to have undergone a huge change. At this moment, a text notification appeared. Congratulations, your cerulean planet's ancestor statue, Sun Simiao. You have used the faceless ancestor statue of the cerulean planet's human race and officially advanced from yellow gold tier to legendary tier. Current ancestral enhancement effect has been updated. Zhou Zhou first looked at the ancestor statue and realized that the level symbol behind Sun Simiao had changed from yellow gold tier to legendary tier. Not only that, there was also a summoning function that he had never seen before. Summon? What function is this? I can try it later, Zhou Zhou thought. Then, he looked at the current ancestral enhancement. The essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies had also advanced to the legendary tier. Treasure name: essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. Treasure grade: legendary tier. Treasure effect 1. After healing the injured, there is a high chance that all physician-related professionals in the territory will comprehend more medical theories, increasing the probability of breaking through by 90%. Treasure effect 2. All physician-related professionals who have learned the essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies will have a chance of receiving hints from the human ancestor of the cerulean planet, Sun Simiao, when they encounter difficult illnesses. Treasure effect 3. The potential of all physician-related professionals in the territory will increase by 2 levels. It cannot surpass the legendary tier advance grade at most. If you leave the territory, the enhancement of your potential will be ineffective. Treasure description: human lives are the most important. They are more precious than gold. They are more virtuous than this. Prompt: this treasure is exclusive to the Imperial Ancestral Temple. It cannot be worn down, lost, or destroyed. Zhou Zhou gasped. His gaze was fixed on treasure effect 3. After confirming it again and again, he confirmed that he was not wrong. It's really increased by 2 major levels. Even though it's only to increase physician-related professionals by 2 major levels. But isn't it too terrifying? Zhou Zhou muttered. Take Bai Yuejing, the strongest doctor in his territory, for example. The upper limit of Bai Yujing's potential was extraordinary tier intermediate grade. He was already an extraordinary tier elementary grade doctor. Before long, he would reach the upper limit of his potential and have no way to enter. However, it was different with this new treasure effect 3. With this new ancestral enhancement, Bai Yujing's potential would directly surpass the epic tier and reach the legendary tier. It could be said that, in the future, as long as he worked hard and had enough medical knowledge to learn, he could easily become a legendary tier doctor. It was not difficult for him to even reach the upper limit of his potential and become a legendary tier doctor. And a potential of this level was something that even many heroes in his territory could not reach. Is this the legendary tier ancestral enhancement? It's actually so terrifying. Zhou Zhou was shocked. Even though this buff would be ineffective without the territory, however, Zhou Zhou naturally would not feel that it was a pity for subjects who were not in his territory to lose their potential. Top grade, top grade. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up as he looked at the treasure effect. After reading it a few times, he retracted his gaze reluctantly. Then he looked at the new function summoning. Summon. Zhou Zhou did not hesitate and chose to summon it. Under his surprised gaze, the statue of Sun Simiao's ancestor suddenly emitted a dazzling purple light. Then, the purple light did not fuse into the statue again. Instead, it began to condense in front of Zhou Zhou and gradually formed the appearance of an old Taoist priest. Soon, an old Taoist priest with a bun on his head and a kind face appeared in front of him. He was wearing a simple Taoist robe and holding a wooden staff in his right hand. There was a gourd hanging from his waist. It was lifelike, like a real person. No. Under Zhou Zhou's powerful perception, he knew that the person in front of him was a real person. At this moment, the Elder One cupped his fists and chuckled. Sun Simiao. Greetings, my lord. Old senior son, you're too kind. Zhou Zhou reacted and said hurriedly. Sun Simiao smiled and looked around. Then, he lowered his head and stepped on the ground curiously. He sniffed the air and clicked his tongue in wonder. This high continent is different from our China. Previously, he had been observing this world in the essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. Now that he could appear with his true body, he was naturally very curious about this world. Zhou smiled. Then, the two of them chatted for a while before Zhou asked, "Old Senior Sunday, do you want to show me what's wrong with me?" This was the king of medicine. Zhou was naturally unwilling to let it go. "My lord has a celestial appearance, and is very healthy. What's wrong with him?" Sun Simiao's gaze was sharp. He looked at Zhou's face carefully and said. Zhou immediately laughed. "Oh yes. My lord, I want to see my good friend Bai Yuejing. Is that possible?" Sun Simiao said. "Of course. I'll go with you, senior." Zhou also said. He also wanted to see what Bai Yuejing would become after his potential increased. Sun Simiao nodded. Then, the two of them walked towards Bai Yuejing's residence. Chapter 487 Reward of the Strongest Lord of All Races. 1. At the same time, Bai Yuejing's residence. At this moment, Bai Yuejing was fighting at night and studying medical books. Moreover, he was studying the Chinese medicine books passed down by Sun Simiao. The doctor treats cold with hot medicine, treats heat with cold medicine, and vomits and poisons if you don't eat. He read attentively and carefully. The more he read, the more Bai Yuejing felt that this traditional Chinese medicine path had many similarities to the human medical path in the high continent that he cultivated. This made him feel inspired. At this rate, I should be able to advance to an extraordinary tier intermediate grade doctor soon and reach the limit of my potential. He was very happy. Normally speaking, the closer professionals were to the upper limit of their potential, the harder it would be to advance again. For example, Zhao Changshu. He had been trapped as a white platinum tier architect for many years. If not for the fact that he came to Zhou's territory later, and came into contact with many special buildings and race buildings, he would not have been able to reach the upper limit of his potential so quickly. He might even have advanced further, and become the architect of the diamond tier advanced grade. If not for the fact that he came to Zhou's territory later, and came into contact with many special buildings and race buildings, he would not have been able to reach the upper limit of his potential so quickly. He might even have advanced further, and become the architect of the diamond tier advanced grade. The difference was, Zhao Changshu had been promoted to a diamond tier advanced grade architect by coming into contact with special buildings and buildings of the race. Now, Bai Yuejing felt that she was not far from becoming an extraordinary tier intermediate grade doctor, because she had come into contact with Sun Simiao's Chinese medicine inheritance. Bai Yuejing was a very pure-hearted doctor. His desire to increase his level was not mainly for that status and reputation. What he was thinking about was that he could save more people by upgrading to an extraordinary tier intermediate grade doctor. There were already more than 2,000 extraordinary tier soldiers in the Blazing Sun territory. It was also because of this that the number of high-level doctors in the Blazing Sun territory was already a little tight. Seeing this, Bai Yuejing also yearned to break through to a higher-level doctor. This way, he could relieve the pressure on the medical resources of the Blazing Sun territory. At this moment, Bai Yuejing's mind suddenly trembled as he looked at the medical book in front of him in a daze. The profound and complicated medical knowledge that he had previously felt suddenly became easy to comprehend at this moment. At a glance, all kinds of medical knowledge easily entered his mind. He even drew inferences, allowing him to understand more medical knowledge. At this moment, he felt that he was getting closer and closer to becoming an extraordinary tier intermediate grade doctor. Boom! It was as if the world had been split open. An even stronger doctor's energy surged in his body. Bai Yuejing indulged in the newly obtained medical knowledge for a long time before sensing the changes in his body. He could not help but be shocked. He had actually broken through to the extraordinary tier intermediate grade. What? Bai Yuejing gasped. What happened just now? Why did I suddenly break through? Moreover, the breakthrough was so easy, as if he was eating and drinking. Even though he really felt that he was not far from becoming an extraordinary tier intermediate grade doctor, he shouldn't have broken through so easily. This feeling, It reminded him of the feeling of breaking through from a white-silver tier advanced grade doctor to a yellow-gold tier elementary grade doctor when he was young and still a doctor genius. It was that easy, that relaxing. It was as if this was not a difficult bottleneck for him to pass. However, he was an extraordinary tier elementary grade doctor just now. How could the difficulty of breaking through to the extraordinary tier intermediate grade be the same as breaking through to the yellow-gold tier elementary grade as a white-silver tier advanced grade? Could it be? An unbelievable thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Then he immediately sensed the upper limit of his potential. Then he froze. The upper limit of his potential had actually crossed 2 major realms and reached the legendary tier. What was going on? Elder Bai. At this moment, a voice came from outside the door. Bai Yuejing immediately recognized that this was his lord's voice. There was no time to think about what had happened to his body. He tidied up his appearance and quickly walked to the door of the house and opened it. Greetings, my lord. Greetings. Bai Yuejing had just finished speaking respectfully to Zhou when he was stunned when he saw the person beside the lord. Why? Old friend, didn't you see the old Taoist priest statue in the Imperial Ancestral Temple? Why can't you recognize it now? Sun Simiao stroked his beard and chuckled as he looked at Bai Yuejing. Your old son? Bai Yuejing's eyes widened. Exactly. Sun Simiao nodded inside. I'm lucky to have been raised to my current level by my lord. I can already reconstruct my true body and be summoned to walk around in this world. Moreover, there's no time limit. Strictly speaking, as long as Sun Simiao's ancestor statue was not damaged, he would be immortal now. He could also be resurrected in the statue, even if his body was killed now. The price was that he needed to consecrate some legendary tier mist cores. The legendary tier mist core was not a big price for the current Zhou. On the other side, Bai Yuejing's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. When the two of them were communicating with each other about the medical path of the world, they had unknowingly become good friends. Now that he saw his good friend walking in this world with his true body, he was naturally very happy. Besides Sun Simiao, Zhou also smiled at the two of them. At this moment, he suddenly realized what he was hungry about and exclaimed in surprise. Elder Bai, you've broken through to the extraordinary tier intermediate grade? He was surprised. Not only that, he also realized that Elder Bai had become much younger. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had changed from an old man to a middle-aged man. He had never given him items like blood honey that could restore his youth. That's right. I broke through for no reason. Bai Yuejing scratched his head in confusion. Then, he told them about his sudden breakthrough and his potential increasing to the legendary tier. Zhou and Sun Simiao looked at each other and smiled. So that was it. No wonder he could recover his youth. It should be because his potential had increased, so his body had become younger. Then, Zhou did not hide anything and told him the effect of the legendary tier essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. Now, the potential of the doctors in our territory should have increased by 2 levels. Elder Bai, your breakthrough today will not be the only one you will experience. In the future, I'm afraid a large number of high-level doctors will appear in our territory in an endless stream. Zhou said happily. He naturally did not forget the first effect of the legendary tier essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. After healing the injured, there was a high chance that they would comprehend more medical theories, increasing the probability of breaking through by 90%. What did a 90% breakthrough probability mean? This meant that as long as physician-related professionals did not reach the upper limit of his potential, he could break through his profession level almost without any bottlenecks after accumulating enough profession knowledge. Chapter 488 Reward of the Strongest Lord of All Races. 2. The essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies could originally allow physician-related professionals to have a high chance of comprehending more medical theories after healing their injuries. Coupled with the treasure effect 2 of the essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies, it could allow physician-related professionals who mastered the book to have a chance of receiving Sun Simiao's hint when they encountered difficult illnesses. Under such conditions, when the effects of the three treasures were stacked, it could be said that they had opened a path to all physician-related professionals. It could be said that physician-related professionals working in the Blazing Sun territory could easily reach the upper limit of their potential. Zhou felt that it was shocking just thinking about it. His Blazing Sun territory was simply a professional holy land for physician-related professionals. Physicians, clergymen, pharmacists, and even the clergymen of the Goddess of Life shelter could feel the terrifying enhancement of the essential prescriptions worth 1,000 gold for emergencies on them in the Blazing Sun territory. Zhou could already feel it. In the future, a large number of high-level physician-related professionals would appear in his territory. The problem of the lack of high-level doctors in his territory could naturally be easily resolved in the future. Zhou was already considering introducing more doctor-related professionals to the outside world in the future. Only then could he maximize the effect of the legendary tier essential prescriptions, worth 1,000 gold for emergencies. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, old son. The two of you can be said to have given me a new lease on life. Bai Yuejing will never forget it. If there's a chance, he'll definitely repay the lord and old son's kindness. Bai Yuejing said solemnly. Letting his doctor potential increase by 2 major realms was already equivalent to giving him a brand new future. He had to remember this kindness. Your subject Bai Yujing's loyalty has increased to 100. He has become your dead loyal subject. A line of text suddenly appeared in front of Zhou. Zhou smiled when he saw this. If he spread this matter to the entire territory tomorrow, he should immediately have a large group of highly loyal, or even dead loyal physician-related professional subjects. Thinking of this, Zhou immediately decided to publicize this matter. If he wanted to upgrade his Diamond Tier Peace and Prosperity Lord talent to the Extraordinary Tier Peaceful Times Lord talent, he needed 1 million subjects with loyalty of 90 points and above. Now he could use this opportunity to increase the number of subjects he needed in this aspect. Sun Simiao and Bai Yuejing quickly thought of what Zhou thought of. After the three of them entered the house, they quickly could not help but talk about the future development of the territory's medical path. After chatting for a while, Zhou said that he wanted to leave. Sun Simiao and Bai Yuejing wanted to send him back, but Zhou rejected them. How could he not tell that these two medical peers had a lot to discuss and communicate? Zhou was naturally willing to fulfill his wish. After returning to the territory alone, Zhou continued to check the next rewards. The first was the title reward of the Strongest Lord. Title name, Strongest Lord. Title quality, unique title of the race, permanent. Title effect 1. When you fight any enemy faction, you will receive 200% additional strength increase and 99% additional damage reduction. Your subjects will receive 100% additional strength increase and 50% additional damage reduction. Title effect 2. The suffix of your Lord Battlefield title will be added behind your title when you speak in the World Channel. You can take the initiative to turn it off or activate it. Title effect 3. Supreme Blessing. When you and your subjects are extracting loots, the drop rate of your loots is increased by an additional 20%, and the number of loots you obtain is increased by an additional 30%. The unique type of loots cannot obtain this bonus. Title description. A unique title of the race that can only be obtained by a lord after obtaining the highest rank within the race on the Lord battlefield. The strongest lord of every race will be blessed by the supreme will. Prompt. As the drop rate of your loots has reached 100%, the drop rate of these loots has increased by 20%. The number of loots you have obtained has increased by an additional 50%. Zhou smiled. He had previously obtained the reward of the title of the Strongest Lord, however. That was only for a limited time. Now that it had become permanent, the benefits were naturally self-evident. Moreover, not only did it become permanent, its title effect had also increased greatly. The additional strength of the Lord with title effect 1 increased from 100% to 200%. The additional strength bonus of his subjects had also increased from 50% to 100%. In addition, The number of loots had increased from 20% to 50%. This was the greatest improvement for him, the king of loots. Then, he looked at the title reward of the strongest lord of all races. Title name, strongest lord of all races. Title quality, supreme, permanent. Title effect 1. You and your territory forces are famous in the myriad worlds. All the lord forces will know that you are the strongest lord in this myriad races lord battlefield event. Title effect 2. When you activate the diplomacy interface with a non-enemy lord faction, your diplomatic relations with the other party will automatically increase to respect. Activated after establishing the kingdom. Title effect 3. Favor of the supreme will. When you and your subjects are extracting loots, the number of loots you obtain will increase by an additional 100%. A unique type of loots cannot obtain this bonus. Title effect 4. When you speak in the world channel within the race, the suffix of your lord battlefield title will be added behind your title. You can take the initiative to turn it off or activate it. Title description. The supreme reward for the myriad races lord battlefield event can only be obtained by the strongest lord, who performs the best in this event. It represents the favor of the supreme will, and one of the supreme honors of the lords of all races. Zhou could not help but take a deep breath when he saw the title of the strongest lord of all races. As expected of the title of the strongest lord of all races. Not to mention anything else. Just the additional 100% increase in the number of loots was enough for him to benefit greatly. Moreover, it could be stacked with the enhancement of the title of the strongest lord, which meant, now that he had killed a fog monster and began to retrieve the loots, he would be given another 150% of the loots in addition to the loots it would provide. Coupled with his king of loots, the effect directly exploded. As for the reputation bonuses provided by title effect 1 and 2, Zhou expressed that he was already numb. Since he could not refuse to become famous, then he would accept it calmly. Then, he looked at the reward of the strongest lord of all races. It was a golden gift box. Zhou looked at them. A text notification appeared. Treasure name. Gift box of the race's divine artifact. Treasure grade, special tier. Treasure effect. After opening it, the lord can obtain a complete racial divine artifact. Treasure description. The reward of the strongest lord of all races in the lord battlefield. After opening it, you can obtain an extremely rare racial divine artifact. Zhou's eyes widened. A complete racial divine artifact. Zhou was immediately excited. Could it be at the same level as the sword of Xian Yuan? Then he immediately opened it. A hexagonal 7-colored crystal appeared in front of him. Race divine artifact name. Lucky Star. Equipment grade. Unique title of the race binded. Race divine artifact ability. Lucky. When all humans retrieve loots, the drop rate increases by 5%. When the Lucky Star holder retrieves loots, there is a chance of obtaining a special loots. This effect can only be triggered once a day. When Zhou saw this, his expectant expression immediately became complicated. Chapter 489 The Favor of the Supreme Will. Category of Race Divine Artifact. Zhou looked at this race divine artifact called the Lucky Star. It's useful, but it doesn't seem to be of much use to me. His expression was complicated. This Lucky Star had two effects. The first plus 5% drop rate was naturally useless to him. The King of Loots with a 100% drop rate. However, its influence covered the entire human race, increasing the drop rate by 5%. In terms of this, it would contribute greatly to the future of the entire human race. It was naturally deserving of being called a race divine artifact. The second effect was that the possessor of the Lucky Star could obtain an additional special loots when extracting the loots. Honestly, Zhou did not need this effect just from the introduction. He was the king of loots, and did not lack loots in the least. Why would he need it to provide another loot? However, Zhou thought for a moment, and decided to give it a try, seeing how special it was. Coincidentally, he had yet to use today's opportunity to retrieve the special loots. He could use it to give it a try. Just as he stood up and wanted to go to the monster ranch to look for Mugu, he suddenly noticed that a large number of messages had come from his friend list. Someone he knew sent it, such as Linger Nong Chunglin, the Green Phoenix Lord, the Paper Immortal Lord, the Gold Merchant Lord. There were also people who he was not familiar with. Most of them were Lord friends that Zhou had added when he was purchasing goods and materials in the past. They usually did not dare to disturb Zhou, but now, they all sent messages. Zhou opened them one by one curiously. Thank you, Big Boss Blazing Sun. Big Boss Blazing Sun has obtained a Race Divine Artifact again? The effect of this Race Divine Artifact is awesome. I envy Big Boss Blazing Sun. The range of this lucky star actually affected the entire human race. Fuck. Then it has a huge meaning to the increase in the strength of the entire human race. Zhou understood just by reading the messages of the first few lords. It seemed that the drop rate enhancement given by the lucky star to all humans had already begun to appear. No wonder so many lords suddenly sent him messages to thank him. He looked at the messages from Linger and the others, and realized that they were also talking about the lucky star. Their questions were similar to the other lords. He opened the World Channel, and the Alliance group chat of the Star Alliance, and realized that these lords were also discussing the lucky star. It could be seen from the many comments that everyone was quite satisfied with the 5% drop rate provided by the lucky star. Some of the lords who found it too little were quickly drowned out by the comments of the other lords. Some of the lords who found it too little were quickly drowned out by the comments of the other lords. However, Zhou had obtained these 2 Race Divine Artifacts with his own ability. No matter how much they were to be green with envy, they could not come up with any reason why they felt that the Lord of the Blazing Sun was not worthy. In addition, from the words of these lords, Zhou also saw the details of the Lucky Star bonus buff they had obtained, Light of the Lucky Star. When you and your human subjects retrieve loots, the drop rate will increase by an additional 5%. Race Divine Artifact Hint. The lucky star of the race has been born, and is controlled by the Lord of the Blazing Sun. This is one of the abilities of the race's divine artifact. Zhou nodded. Then he pondered when he saw the words at the back. Special loots. What is considered a special loot? Does the Dragon Egg of the Light Sacred Dragon count? Does the Lord Talent Crystal Fragment, Lord Talent Sphere, and Scarlet Lord Talent Sphere count? Thinking of this, Zhou vaguely felt that it should be the case. However, in order to prevent himself from guessing wrongly, Zhou still tried to ask the Supreme Will. Soon, the Supreme Will sent him a message and told him that his guess was right. Special loots like the Light Sacred Dragon's Dragon Egg, the Lord Talent Crystal Fragment, and the Lord Talent Sphere could be considered special loots. Naturally, they were not within the influence of the light of the lucky star. Zhou was a little puzzled after thanking the Supreme Will verbally. When has the Supreme Will been so good? Not only did it explain everything, he was also told the range of the normal loots? In the past, the Supreme Will would have replied with a yes, and be done with. Could it be? Zhou suddenly thought of something, and opened the title effect of the strongest lord of all races. His gaze landed on the words, Favor of the Supreme Will, Title Effect 3. The Favor of the Supreme Will. Could it be because of this? Is that why the Supreme Will explained everything? Zhou pondered. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that he might be right. A smile appeared on Zhou's face. If that was the case, he had to perform well in the future, and make the Supreme Will have a better impression of him. At this moment, he suddenly saw the Green Phoenix Lord say that she wanted to see what the lucky star looked like in the Alliance group. Zhou was not stingy. He took a photo of the lucky star and sent it to the Alliance group chat. However, he did not share the lucky star's attributes. But even so, when the photo of the lucky star was sent to the Alliance group, the lords of the Alliance group instantly exploded and discussed enthusiastically when they saw the appearance of the lucky star. Wow, is this the lucky star? It looks so good, like a gem. No, it's even better than a gem. Tisk tsk. This color is simply the same as the mythical tier legendary Heaven Mending Stone. The appearance of the race's divine artifact is so good. Why did the racial divine artifact last time be an incomplete Sword of Xian Yuan? Why has it been changed to a lucky star that I've never heard of before? I have the same doubts, but I can't be bothered to think about them. Zhou also saw the Lord's doubts. Therefore he asked the Supreme Will. If there were privileges, it would be a waste not to use them. This time, the Supreme Will also gave him a hint. Supreme Will Notification 1. There are many classification methods for race divine artifacts. One of them can be divided into exclusive race divine artifacts and public race divine artifacts. Supreme Will Notification 2. Your Sword of Xian Yuan, Agriculture Husbandry Sword, is one of the branches of the exclusive race divine artifact, the Sword of Xian Yuan. It has evolved from the history of the human race on the cerulean planet and gathers the faith of the human civilization on your cerulean planet. It often has a huge enhancement effect on the human race on the cerulean planet. However, the people of foreign races can't enjoy the enhancement of this race divine artifact. Supreme Will Notification 2. A public-type race divine artifact is condensed from the power of faith of the life forms of all races. Under normal circumstances, even though its race enhancement bonus is not as powerful as the enhancement of an exclusive race divine artifact, its race enhancement bonus can work on life forms of any race and is not affected by a single race. After binding to its master, it will immediately give a race enhancement bonus to the race the binding person belongs to. Supreme Will Notification 3. All life forms who possess public-type divine artifacts of the race in the past will be crazily intercepted and killed by other people of foreign race lords. When the owner of the divine artifact of the race dies, the divine artifact left behind will automatically be unbound until it welcomes a new owner. It is also because of this that the appearance of every divine artifact of the race will welcome a cruel battle at the level of the race. Chapter 490 Special Loots, Violent Storm Lord Puppet. When Zhou saw the first two Supreme Will notifications, he realized that there was a difference between a race divine artifact and a public race divine artifact. The former could only be used on a single race. The latter could be used on all races. When he saw the third Supreme Will notification, his expression immediately changed slightly, and he frowned. The lucky star might cause a cruel battle at the race level? His expression became serious. Thinking of the effect of a public race divine artifact, the hint of the Supreme Will might not be an alarmist. He thought for a while before his frown gradually relaxed. Now he was a lord of all races, and was protected by the Supreme Agreement. Under the Supreme Agreement, kingdom level and lord factions, above the kingdom level, could not take the initiative to attack his territory. The other party could only counterattack if he took the initiative to start a war. Zhou was not stupid. He naturally would not start a war with an enemy that far exceeded the strength of his faction. Few lord factions below the kingdom level could defeat Zhou. In that case, the lucky star, a divine artifact of the race, would not bring him much danger for the time being. He felt a little relieved. Then, he looked at the lucky star in his hand and decided to test its special loots effect. He would do it if he wanted to. Zhou took the lucky star and walked out of the beginner-grade lord's paradise. He came to the monster ranch and called Mu Gu over through telepathy. "Greetings, my lord," Mu Gu said respectfully when he arrived in front of Zhou. Zhou nodded. He looked at the empty monster ranch in front of him and asked casually, "You're going to start making ranch monsters later, right?" "Yes, my lord." Zhou nodded. His gaze swept across the 34 fog monsters stored in the 34 monster ranches. In the end, his gaze fell on the Sandman. The 3 monster ranches occupied by the Sandman monsters can be exchanged for the red-eyed blood wasps. Zhou said, "The Sandman was the fog monster that produced the green bronze tier construction material, the light-drawing crystal. Previously, the city wall of Blazing Sun City had relied on this construction material to have a good white-silver tier defense. However, now that his city wall had been replaced with the supreme defense, he naturally did not need this light-drawing crystal and the Sandman who produced it. However, even though he did not need them anymore, Zhou would not kill all the Sandmen. Instead, he would leave a portion of them as the backup monster resource bank of the monster ranch. This way, when he suddenly needed the previous monster resources one day, he would not have no choice but to mobilize them from the backup monster resource vault. As for the red-eyed blood wasps that replaced the Sandman, it was because they could produce blood honey king cake, blood honey royal cake, and other loots that could restore youth or even lifespan. Zhao Changshou, Zheng Yuanqi, and the other old people in the territory relied on it to return to their youth and lifespan. Previously, Zhou liked combat-type ranch monsters, so he did not let the red-eyed blood wasps into the monster ranch. Now that there were more monster ranches, there were a total of 34. The Sandman was taken off the shelves again. Then he could let the red-eyed blood wasps replace the Sandman. Now there were many talented but old people like Zheng Yuanqi, Zhao Changshou, Wu Xian, and Bai Yuejing who were about to die in his territory. They were like this. Even if they were loyal to the territory and wanted to be loyal for the rest of their lives, they were actually already powerless at work because of their age. In the future, when his red-eyed blood wasps produced a large amount of blood honey royal cake, and even blood honey royal cake in the monster ranch that could restore their youth and lifespan, these old people would welcome their second spring. They would no longer have to worry about their old bodies and exhausted lifespan. This way they could work better for the territory. Both sides were happy. Yes, my lord, Mugu said respectfully. Also Mugu, condense a lord-level violent storm demon spirit for me first. It shouldn't be a problem, right? Zhou looked at him and said, no problem. However, lord, you need to wait for a while. About 10 minutes. Mugu said. Okay. Zhou agreed readily. It was only 10 minutes. It passed quickly. Mugu nodded when he saw this. Then, he turned around and walked to the monster ranch of the violent storm demon spirit and began to create the Lord-tier Violent Storm Demon Spirit. 10 minutes later, a white Platinum-tier intermediate-grade Violent Storm Demon Spirit was created. Zhou looked at the Elemental Demon Spirit, controlling the two elemental elements, wind and thunder. A text notification appeared. Monster name, Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord, Strength level, White Platinum-tier intermediate grade. Monster description. A fog monster lord created by the monster patriarch, Mugu. It has mastered two elemental abilities, wind and lightning. It is easily angered and is extremely aggressive. Loot's drop rate. 30 white platinum tier mist cores drop rate, 100%. 50 wind element gems drop rate, 25%. 50 thunder element gems drop rate, 25%. 1 white platinum tier intermediate grade skill book, Death Storm, drop rate, 15%. 1 gradeless Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificate, drop rate, 6%. 1 white Platinum Tier Intermediate Grade Violent Storm Spirit Recruitment Books, drop rate, 6%. 1 True Faith Tier Scarlet Crystal, drop rate, 3%. Zhou looked at the other party's loots in wonder. This guy's drop rate had clearly increased greatly, especially the 2 loots, the Class Change Certificate, and the recruitment books. Previously, its initial drop rate was 1%. It had directly increased to 6%. It had increased by a full 5%. This should be the effect of the race's divine artifact, the Light of the Lucky Star. Then, he stopped thinking and used a Diamond-tier Chaotic Blade Chi to deal with the Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord in front of him. Then, he placed his hand on the other party's fallen elemental body. A text notification appeared. Do you want to retrieve the loot? Do you want to use the race divine artifact Lucky Star to retrieve a special loots? Extract. Extract them all. Zhou immediately said. Lord Talent notification. Your loots have been enhanced by the King of Loots, Perfect Loots. Grade +1. Title hint. Your loots have been affected by the titles Strongest Lord and Strongest Lord of all races. The number of loots has increased by 150%. Lord Talent notification. You have obtained Perfect Loots, 75 Mist Cores Diamond Tier, 125 Wind Element Gems, 125 Thunder Element Gems, 3 Death Storm Skill Books, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade, 3 Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificates Gradeless, 3 Violent Storm Spirit Recruitment Books, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. 1 Scarlet Crystals True Faith Tier. Lucky Star Hint. You have obtained a special loots, Violent Storm Lord Puppet, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Chapter 491 Loots Summary. Diamond Tier Advanced Grade. Zhou looked at the loots notification in front of him and smiled. 150% of the additional loots dropped was awesome. In the future, the soldier-type recruitment books he obtained from the Monster Ranch would greatly increase because of the 150% additional loots. Then, he looked at the special loots he had obtained this time. It was a palm-sized puppet. It looked like the Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord. A text notification appeared. Treasure name, Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord Puppet. Treasure grade, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Treasure effect. After the blood recognition, you can obtain the loyalty of a Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord with Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade Strength. This Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord had talents. Wind and Thunder Demon Body, Talent. Elemental Body Kingdom Level Battle Skill. Death Storm, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Controlling Wind Spirit, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Controlling Thunder Spirit, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Wind Whisperer, Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade. Instant Thunder, Extraordinary Tier Physics Damage Immunity, 80% Awakening. Diamond Tier Elemental Damage Immunity, 100% Awakening. And other abilities. Not only is it powerful and loyal to its master, it will automatically recover to the form of a puppet when more than half of its body is destroyed. At the same time, it will begin to absorb elemental energy to heal itself until it completely recovers and can fight again. Current maximum number of self-repairs of the Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord Puppet. 10/10 prompt. With the enhancement of your scavenger talent, the current maximum number of self-repairs of the Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord Puppet has increased to 2020. Treasure description. It was dropped by a Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord after its death. It was condensed under a magical power. It's a good protective treasure. Not a bad protective treasure. Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. Then he put it into his spatial ring. Now that he was already at the Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade, with a series of skills and treasures, he could even defeat Extraordinary Tier experts. Naturally, he did not need a Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade bodyguard to be his burden. He would give it to Linger or Xiaoxian later. The two of them should need this. Zhou thought. If I kill another Violent Storm Demon Spirit Lord tomorrow, will I get the same spoils of war? He muttered. It was a pity that the Lucky Star had used up all its usages today. He could no longer verify his thoughts. He'll have to worry about that next time. At this moment, Bai Yin walked over quickly from afar and arrived in front of Zhou. I've something to report, my lord. All the soldiers have passed the triumphal arch, and their strength has been promoted again. In addition, the Lords of the Star Alliance have brought 20% of their Insight defection soldiers to us. I've already integrated them into the monster army. This is the list of spoils of war and the soldiers' strength. Bai Yin said respectfully and handed the two lists to Zhou at the same time. Zhou took it and looked at them. Today they had eliminated a total of 3,873 Lord factions and more than 525/22. 73 million enemies of the people of foreign races. With the enhancement of the King of Loots and the title of the strongest Lord, he obtained a total of loots. 126 green bronze tier territory tokens, 43 white silver tier territory tokens, 15 yellow gold tier territory tokens, 4 white platinum tier territory tokens, 96 diamond tier mist cores, 201,250 white platinum tier mist cores, 20,279,950 yellow gold tier mist cores, 51,500,000 and 1,700 white silver tier mist cores, and 80,547,780 green bronze tier mist cores, 40,121,100 skill books, and 62,000,7160 equipment. Basic materials, 18,592 billion units. 27,885 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. 6 mythical tier unique Lord Talent crystal fragments. This was the list of loots. Zhou was looking at the soldiers' promotion list. After the Lords of the Star Alliance sent over 20% of the Insight Defections troops, which was 832,322 monster soldiers, Zhou's current troops officially broke through to 2,457,903. In today's final battlefield, a total of 1,811,541 soldiers had broken through. After that, he went through the Triumphal Arch again, and the number of soldiers who broke through directly reached 1,001,360. They were just short of 300,000 soldiers to reach the level of everyone's advancement. Among the soldiers under his command, there were 451,098 Black Iron Tier soldiers, 481,574 Green Bronze Tier soldiers, 505,200 White Silver Tier soldiers, 427,354 Yellow Gold Tier soldiers, 351,176 White Platinum Tier soldiers, 237,960 Diamond Tier soldiers, 3,541 Extraordinary Tier soldiers. In the end, Wuxia had broken through to the Extraordinary Tier Advanced grade. Bai Yin had broken through to Diamond Tier Elementary grade. Nazario had broken through to Diamond Tier Elementary grade. Soul Reaper Maris had broken through to Diamond Tier Elementary grade. Spectral Dragon Auguste had broken through to White Platinum Tier Advanced grade. Feng Luo had broken through to Extraordinary Tier Intermediate grade. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Today, they had gained a lot from the final battlefield. In particular, he obtained more than 27,000 Lord Talent crystals. If this was the real world, there would not be so many hostile lords of the people of foreign races that he could kill like this. Unfortunately, the final battlefield will be closed from tomorrow onwards. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to worry about the lack of Lord Talent crystal fragments. Zhou felt that it was a pity. Then, he suddenly thought of something and looked at the myriad races Lord battlefield. In the end, he accidentally discovered that this activity option still existed. It only showed that it was under maintenance. Maintenance? Zhou was stunned. Maintaining what? Couldn't he just remove it? Could it be the Supreme will wanted to change this event and leave it behind? Zhou suddenly thought of this possibility. It seemed that it was not impossible. If this function did not affect reality, staying behind to entertain or train the army's combat ability was not bad after all. He did not think too much about it. Instead, he set up a transaction at the marketplace. Then, he took out 30 million skill books and 50 million equipment from these loots and placed them in this transaction. Finally, the release was confirmed. Soon, the Lords of Cerulean Planet discovered this transaction and quickly pushed it to the top of the transaction browsing list. As for the Lord's reactions and other matters, Zhou did not care. He only hoped that these skill books and equipment could be sold for a good price. My lord, Gold Merchant Lord, and the rest brought over 200 different types of fog monsters today. Do you want to take a look? When Bai Yun saw that her lord seemed to have settled his own matters, she spoke respectfully. Tell them to wait a moment, it'll be there soon. After which, Zhou came to the Triumphal Arch and walked through it without hesitation. Boom! A surging but gentle energy was immediately born out of thin air in his heart. Then it surged to various parts of his body, strengthening his body and soul. After a while, Zhou recovered from the feeling of breaking through. He sensed the situation in his body and smiled. Diamond Tier Advanced grade. He had finally exhausted the medicinal power of the Calamity Crossing Spirit Pill. In the future, he would have to recover to that slow advancement speed. Zhou still felt a little melancholic. He was really not used to suddenly changing back after experiencing the feeling of leveling up quickly. However, he quickly adjusted his mood and walked quickly towards the alliance members with Bai Yun. Chapter 492 Special Soldier Type. King of Yellow Gold. In an empty space in Blazing Sun City, Linger, Nong Chunglin, Green Phoenix Lord, Gold Merchant Lord, Paper Immortal Lord, and 312 other Alliance Masters were gathered here. Not far away from them, there were more than 200 cages, containing more than 200 fog monsters of different races. At this moment his lordship is here. I wonder if the monster I brought this time will be chosen by the Lord. Haha. The fog monster I brought will definitely be chosen by the Lord. I won't be polite with the reward this time. You're that confident? Just a little haha. Everyone chatted and laughed. Soon, Zhou came in front of everyone. Greetings, Alliance Master. X312. No one knew who started it first, but everyone shouted in unison. Then he chuckled. Good evening, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. I got caught up in something just now. This little bit of time is nothing. That's right. The Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event has just ended. We don't have anything else now, but we have a lot of time. You're too kind, Alliance Master. My lord, we've brought all the fog monsters you wanted. Are you satisfied with them? Zhou smiled when he saw this. Then, his gaze landed on the 200-odd fog monsters. To be precise, there were 213 fog monsters. He did not waste anyone's time, and walked over to take a look. The first monster was a robust creature with black and purple patterns all over its body. It also had 2 pairs of purple eyes. Monster name, Purple-Eyed Demon Leopard, Strength Level, White Silver Tier Intermediate Grade. Monster description, a fog monster in the wilderness plains. It is good at hiding and hunting. It is extremely fast and has night vision. It also has spirit-type abilities. It is a merciless hunter at night. Loot's drop rate, 4 White Silver Tier Mist Cores drop rate, 100%. 1 Black Iron Tier Advanced Grade Skill Book, Eye of the Night. 1 White Silver Tier Intermediate Grade Skill Book Purple Shadow Pursuit. Drop rate, 8%. 1 White Silver Tier Intermediate Grade Skill Book Purple Eye of Enchantment. Drop rate, 7%. 1 True Faith Tier Scarlet Crystals. Drop rate, 1%. Zhou killed it, and looked at the specific information of the loots. In the end he shook his head. The skills of this purple-eyed demon leopard were not bad, but they were too normal, and did not have any special characteristics. They did not meet the standards to be reared in the monster ranches. The Eye of the Night could barely be considered a special ability. As his soldiers gradually increased their strength, they would naturally master this night vision ability. There was no need to master this additional skill at all. In addition, through the spoils of war of the purple-eyed demon leopard, he was certain of one thing. The scarlet crystals were not within the amplification range of the spoils of war of the strongest lords, and the strongest lords of the myriad races. Otherwise, it would be 3 pious tier scarlet crystals instead of 1. He shook his head inwardly, and looked at the next fog monster. As time passed, fog monsters were killed one after another by Zhou. He could not help but sigh inwardly. It was not easy to obtain good spoils of war, even if he had the talent of the King of Loots. On the other side, Lord Nong Chenglin and the other Alliance Masters were also looking at their Alliance Master's attitude expectantly. When they saw Zhou pass through the fog monster they had brought, they could not help but look disappointed. If the fog monsters they brought could be chosen by the Lord, he would be happy. In addition, he would be able to obtain 1,000 Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificates, and 1,000 other Soldier Type Class Change Certificates. There was no need to mention the former. The latter was 1,000 Kingdom-level Soldier Type Class Change Certificates, and many other types of Soldier Type Class Change Certificates. Who wouldn't want it? However, the Lord's standards were indeed high. After such a long time, he actually did not choose any of them. Mine should be chosen, right? In the crowd, an ordinary-looking female lord thought nervously. She was quite confident before she came. She even had the courage to tell others that the fog monster she brought would definitely be chosen by the Lord. But now, she gradually started panicking when the Lord was going through the monsters without stopping. His lordship even has a kingdom-level soldier type. Perhaps he really wouldn't like the fog monster I brought. She heard people discussing the Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificate in low voices. She thought about the loots she had obtained from the fog monster, and felt a little disappointed. Half an hour later, Zhou stood in front of the 113th fog monster's spoils of war. After reading its spoils of war, he was just as disappointed. He walked to the next fog monster expressionlessly. It was a soldier wearing a yellow gold tier armor. Its feet were off the ground as it floated in the air. It held a yellow gold tier sword and a yellow gold tier shield, and there were 9 yellow gold tier spears on its back. It looked impressive and luxurious. Zhou looked at it. A text message appeared. Monster name: King of Yellow Gold, strength level, yellow gold tier advanced grade. Monster description: a fog monster from the lost Golden City. It is a special soldier type of the fallen Golden Kingdom, a branch of the Sword Shield soldiers. The King of Yellow Gold has extremely high defense, attack power, and low altitude flying ability. Moreover, their golden mystic armor has an extremely high absorption effect on soul attacks and elemental attacks. Chapter 493: The Second Holy Spirit Tier Scarlet Crystals. Meeting the higher UPS. Then, Zhou killed it and extracted the loots. Zhou realized that the other loots did not change much, but the level increased by 1, and the amount increased by 150%. Only the yellow gold tier's quality had actually increased by 1 and turned into raw gold. Raw gold. This is an extraordinary tier material. Its value is comparable to the life and death elemental gems. Zhou had the heritage of the dragon race in his mind, so he naturally knew the value of this raw gold. He could not help but be happy. Then he picked up the King of Yellow Gold class change certificate and King of Yellow Gold recruitment books. A text notification appeared. Item name: King of Yellow Gold class change certificate. Item level: gradeless. Item effect: special soldier type class change item. After using it, you can become a special soldier type class King of Yellow Gold. You will also have a set of low-level black iron equipment, 100 kilograms of gold, 20 years of combat experience as a gold king, and initial strength as a low-level black iron. Item description: special class change certificate. It comes from the lost Golden Kingdom. It can allow ordinary people without any strength to step onto the extraordinary tier path of military professionals. Item name: King of Yellow Gold recruitment book. Item level: white platinum tier advanced grade. Item effect: special soldier type recruitment books. Throw them into the gate of summoning. You can summon a white platinum tier advanced grade black iron tier elementary grade King of Yellow Gold to become your subject. Item description: one of the sources of the myriad realm lord's forces. Only the lucky among the lords can obtain it. Good God! They are giving a 100 kilograms of yellow gold tier for the job change. Zhou sighed. If news of this were to spread on the cerulean planet or Earth, it would cause many people to go crazy. However, in the High Continent, the main currency used by all life forms was the mist cores. In their eyes, raw yellow gold was just a relatively rare mineral. He silently memorized the name of the King of Yellow Gold and continued to look at the fog monster behind him. However, he did not know if it was because he had used up all his luck, but the next dozens of monsters did not give him any spoils of war that he liked. Until he saw the last fog monster. This was an ordinary wolf monster. Monster name: Bloodfang Wild Wolf, strength level, black iron tier advanced grade. Monster description: a mist monster from the barren grass mountains. It likes to eat the flesh of living creatures, and often hunts in groups. Its blood teeth are extremely sharp, and can be sold to traveling vendors in exchange for some mist cores. Loot's drop rate: 8 black iron tier mist cores drop rate, 100%. 3 units of blood teeth drop rate, 30%. 1 black iron tier advanced grade equipment blood teeth necklace, drop rate, 20%. 1 fanatic tier scarlet crystals drop rate, 1%. Zhou's eyes widened when he saw the last loot. Fanatic tier scarlet crystals? Wouldn't it be another Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystal after extracting and purifying it? Zhou never expected this. Today, they had killed more than 20 million enemies, but they had not obtained a single fanatic tier scarlet crystals. Now there was one from the more than 200 fog monsters. Without hesitation, Zhou killed it and obtained the Holy Spirit tier scarlet crystals. He looked at the Holy Spirit Tear scarlet crystals in his hand and smiled. He would have 2 Holy Spirit Tear Faith Divine crystals after he purified it. He found another one. He would be able to repay the debt from the Night Temple. At this moment, all the fog monsters had been seen. Zhou called Nong Chunlin over. Who brought this king of yellow gold and the Bloodfang wild wolf here? Zhou asked. Reporting to my lord, the king of yellow gold was brought over by a lord member called Lord Lan Xian. As for this Bloodfang wild wolf, it was brought over by a lord named the Flower Harvester Lord. Nong Chunlin took out a copy and glanced at it before replying immediately. In a while, bring the 2 of them to collect 1,000 copies of the Violent Storm Spirit Class Change Certificate. Also collect 1,000 copies of the other Basic Military Profession Change Certificate. Zhou said. Yes, my lord. Nong Chunlin said respectfully. He was a little envious of these 2 lords. In his impression, these 2 lords were extremely inconspicuous lords in the Star Alliance. They were lucky today. The fog monster they brought with them actually obtained the lord's favor. He sighed in his heart, but he didn't think too much about it. Luck. No matter how envious he was, there was nothing he could do about it. He wasted no time. He immediately went to the team of lords and called Lord Lan Xian and Lord Flower Harvester over. Then he told them what had happened. Both of them were female lords. After being called over, they were pleasantly surprised to know that the fog monster they had brought had been chosen by Zhou. Lord Lan Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, my lord chose the fog monster I brought. The bragging has come true. A bright smile appeared on her face. Then, under Nong Chunglin's lead, she went to collect the reward with Lord Flower Harvester. Zhou did not leave either. Instead, he had a feast with all the lords and held a simple meeting with the lords and generals. The meeting mainly discussed the 3 days of rest and the activities of the King of 10,000 Kings after that. However, since the Supreme Will did not reveal much information about the activities of the King of 10,000 Kings, no one discussed much. In the end, the result of the final meeting was that everyone agreed to develop their territory's forces well in these 3 days. They would try their best to increase the strength of their territory before the King of 10,000 Kings event began, so that they could better face this event. Most of them had the Lord talent of Insight Defection. In addition, they had gained a lot in the past 3 days. The strength of many lords' territories had increased by more than 10 times. Therefore, they were confident that their territory's strength would increase further in these 3 days. Then, everyone did not stay any longer and returned to their respective territories. Zhou also returned to his beginner-grade lord's paradise. In the end, as soon as he returned, he received a piece of news. Temple Lord White River of the Night Temple invited him to the Night Temple for a chat. After Zhou found out, he did not waste any time and followed the soldier to the Night Temple. Night Temple. Zhou had just arrived when he saw Bai He and his disciple Rob Allen waiting for him at the door. Around them stood more than 20 humans who emitted shocking auras and pressure. Among these people, Zhou had seen some in the Night Temple, while others had not. Even though some people had never seen it before, Zhou knew that they were definitely the upper echelons of the Night Temple, or even the upper echelons of the human race, just from the aura they emitted. Zhou retracted the smile on his face and became serious. He walked up to Bai He. Greetings, Bai He. Greetings, seniors. Zhou bowed politely to the human experts. Good. As expected of our human lord. We've already heard about your performance on the battlefield of the lords of the myriad races. You've really brought honor to our human race. Young man, you're quite good-looking. You actually have the appearance of a celestial. Young friend, there's a female junior in my clan who has peerless beauty. Why don't you meet her when you have time? The moment Zhou spoke, countless upper echelons of the human race responded. Rob Allen, who was standing beside Bai He, was obviously envious of Zhou. Chapter 494 God Tier Banquet. This guy he had clearly just arrived in the High Continent not long ago, but he had already caused so much trouble. Rob couldn't help but click his tongue when he thought about what he had done during this period of time. He had become the strongest novice lord of the human race on Cerulean planet, revived a human hero, and ascended to the myriad races Lord Battlefield's mythical tier rank. Now, he had even become the strongest lord of the myriad races. He had even obtained a race divine artifact, the Lucky Star, which benefited the entire human race. The current JoJo, it was not an exaggeration to say that it was beneficial to the entire human race. This was also the reason why so many higher-ups of the Night Temple and the human race came to see each other. They were even willing to take care of each other and rope them in. They owed him a huge favor. What was he doing at his age? He had just been accepted as a disciple by his teacher and was still obediently practicing combat techniques under his teacher. Even though being accepted as a disciple by the legendary king of Abyssal Knights was already a great opportunity in the eyes of many humans, and even people of foreign races, it was nothing compared to the Lord of the Blazing Sun in front of him. Rob Allen thought of Baihe's lament to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. He's the number one among the younger generation of the myriad races. Don't stand here. Let's talk inside. Baihe smiled. Everyone nodded and entered the Night Temple together. Then, they arrived at a large banquet hall. Dozens of luxurious tables were placed in the hall, filled with all kinds of delicacies that JoJo had never heard of. A fragrance of various flavors assaulted his senses. JoJo took a whiff and actually felt that the energy in his body, which had just advanced to Diamond Tier Advanced Grade, had increased slightly again. It was about 0.1%. He could not help but click his tongue. He was a lord. Advancing required a huge amount of promotion energy to begin with. He did not expect that the promotion energy in his body would increase by 0.1% just by taking a whiff of the fragrance of the food. If it were anyone else, that person had probably already increased its promotion energy by about 20%. His gaze inadvertently fell on a plate of dishes. A text notification appeared. Dish name: Extreme Spirit Gold Meat. Dishes grade: Low-level deity elementary grade. Dish description: a divine grade delicacy made from 3-colored jade leaves, bright deer skin, realm essence water, and other god-tier ingredients. It's very delicious and unforgettable to life forms. It can also regulate the body and increase the upper limit of lifespan by 50 to 100 years. JoJo's eyes widened. Oh my fucking god. I only took a casual look, and it was actually a low-tier deity-level dish. Moreover, it had the effect of increasing the upper limit of one's lifespan. He couldn't help but look at the other dishes. The more he looked at it, the more shocked he became. This was because he discovered that the grades of the other dishes were not lower than low-tier deity level. The lowest was a low-tier deity level elementary grade dish, and the highest was a true god-tier elementary grade dish called the Heavenly Origin Treasured Dragonfish. It was located in the middle of all the dishes. Shit. He had learned something new. So this was a banquet for the upper echelons? JoJo was dumbfounded. He could not help but take a deep breath and tell himself not to show his fear. Only then did he reluctantly retract his gaze and look at the others. Only then did he realize that even though these people were a little surprised by the way they looked at the dishes, they were not too affected. Obviously, even though the quality of these dishes was high, it did not shock them. They were all real big shots. JoJo clicked his tongue even more. The weakest of these upper echelons of the human race were probably god-tier existences. Otherwise, why would they look at these dishes so calmly? He had really been valued by some impressive people. After that, everyone took their seats. JoJo was arranged to sit on by his left. As JoJo sat there, he looked at the smiles of the big shots in front of him. No matter how strong his mental fortitude was, he could not help but feel a little nervous. One had to know that as the Temple Lord of the Night Temple and the initiator of this banquet, Baihe was seated at the main seat of the banquet. And now, he was actually sitting next to Baihe. How much higher was he going to elevate him? However, looking at the expressions of the human big shots, they did not seem to have any objections to his position. Instead, they smiled very kindly, as if they were looking at their juniors. Did they really think that they were looking at a junior? Or were they just acting on the surface, but thinking otherwise on the inside? JoJo's mind raced. Let the banquet begin. At this moment, Baihe chuckled. Everyone responded with a smile. Seeing this scene, Zhou stopped thinking and looked at the god-tier dishes in front of him. Who cares? These dishes were all god-tier dishes. They were rare top-grade dishes and had many beneficial effects on him. He had to eat to his fill. He picked up the cutlery and began to eat without any more hesitation. However, even though he had made up his mind to eat his fill, he did not want to appear like a hungry ghost. On the surface, he ate in accordance with table etiquette. However, if one observed carefully, they would realize that his chopsticks had never stopped. This made the human big shot, who had originally wanted to come over to chat, temporarily give up on the idea of coming over. Anyway, he was not in a hurry. After a while, everyone was almost done eating, and their gazes fell on Zhou. Seeing this, Zhou was too embarrassed to continue eating. He put down his chopsticks regretfully. Lord of the Blazing Sun, a handsome young man said with an ancient voice, "Thank you for bringing the lucky star to our human race, so that everyone can enjoy the blessing of the lucky star. This is Xian Yuani, the second patriarch of our human race. He's also the second speaker of our human race's Supreme Council, and the strongest martial immortal of the human race. Don't be deceived by his appearance. He has the ability to retain his youth, and has cultivated the immortality scripture. In fact, he is almost 20,000 years old." Zhou suddenly heard Bai He's voice in his mind, just as he was wondering who this young man was. He could not help but be shocked. Good God! It turned out that this was a big shot, who was good at retaining his youth. As a member of the human race, it's my honor to contribute to the human race. Zhou stood up and said with a smile, regardless of whether this was true or not. At the very least, all the human big shots present smiled when they heard this. A gratified smile also appeared on Xian Yuani's face. He nodded. It's really rare for you to have this opportunity and have this intention. As expected of a genius of our human race. You deserve it. After saying that, his expression gradually became serious. However, do you know the importance of this kind of divine artifact condensed from the faith of the life forms of all races? I know a little. It does not only work on humans, it can also work on living beings of other races. Zhou said, maybe these human big shots wanted me to hand over the lucky star, and let them keep it? This thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Even though the smile on his face did not change, he had a bad feeling. At this moment, the other human big shots were also looking at Xian Yuani with different expressions. It was unknown what they were thinking. Chapter 495 Holy Light Physician King. Ling Ro. Xian Yuani looked at Zhou and nodded. A race divine artifact like the lucky star can almost determine the rise and fall of a race. Moreover, because it can support the entire race, it's definitely impossible to keep it a secret and hide this race divine artifact. It won't be long before you and your lucky star are known to all races. The races here don't only include the Lord of all races. There are also the civilizations behind the lords of the 10,000 races, who aren't participating in the Lord of all races competition, but are paying attention to this competition. Therefore, after you obtain it, you must be even more careful in the future, and keep this race divine artifact well. Xian Yuani reminded, the 5% drop rate bonus did not seem high. However, it was also enough to increase the drop rate by 5 times for some extremely rare spoils of war, such as the 1% drop rate. With this 5% drop rate, many extremely rare spoils of war would easily drop. In addition, its enhancement range was the entire human race. It could be said that with this lucky star, the strength and potential of the human race would at least double in the future. This was the strength of a race divine artifact. I understand. Oh, be careful. Zhou nodded when he heard Xian Yuani's words. In addition, he could not help but be a little surprised. The other party actually did not say that he wanted to safeguard the race's divine artifact for him. Even though he didn't know why he didn't say it, he was really thinking too much. However, this also made him have a good impression of the second speaker of the human race. At the same time, when the other human big shots who were originally looking forward to it heard that Xian Yuani did not mention what they were thinking at all, They were immediately stunned. They all winked at Xian Yuani, and even communicated telepathically. However, Xian Yuani acted as if he did not hear anything and sat there leisurely. However, he expressed his attitude and thoughts. These human big shots were very puzzled, but Xian Yuani was the person with the highest status and strongest strength among them, so they did not dare to say anything. Mr. Speaker, I have a question, Zhou asked. What's the question? Tell me. Xian Yuani smiled. Don't we lords of all races have the protection of the Supreme Agreement set up by the Supreme Will? Can those races and civilizations really ignore the Supreme Agreement and attack me? Zhou asked. The Supreme Agreement is indeed very powerful, but the Supreme will not destroy all the races and civilizations, just because some races and civilizations violate the Supreme Agreement. At most, they will give some punishment that will make the races and civilizations feel the pinch. If the value you show exceeds the damage caused by the punishment, they will make up their minds and come after you. Race divine artifacts have such value, and those top-notch races and civilizations might not do it themselves. They might use various methods to hint to those lower middle-level races and civilizations to attack you. After they get what you have, those top-notch races and civilizations can take action at this time and snatch what they want from these lower middle-level races and civilizations. This will minimize the punishment of the Supreme Will to the greatest extent and obtain what they want. Xian Yuani said in a low voice. Zhou frowned. This move of killing someone with a borrowed knife was ruthless. And most importantly, there was no need for those top-notch races and civilizations to hint anymore. The news of his race's divine artifact Lucky Star would naturally spread to the various races and civilizations before long. When the time comes, he would naturally be in endless trouble. Even though he was already very strong among the lords of all races, however, compared to those local lord factions that had developed for countless years, there was definitely a huge gap. Zhou pondered silently. This Lucky Star was good, but it was also a hot potato. At this moment, Xian Yuani suddenly laughed. Are you worried that those intermediate and low-level races and civilizations will deal with you? He asked. Zhou acknowledged. There was nothing wrong with admitting it. Don't worry, Xian Yuani said. Why not? Zhou was stunned. Xian Yuani looked a little helpless. Then he said in a low voice. Do you think there's no race behind you? If those races and civilizations dare to take the risk of being punished by the Supreme Will to snatch your race's divine artifact, we humans will naturally reject them and not let them hurt you. As for the reason, you can think that we value your potential. You can also say that we want something from you. But the simplest reason is because you are a member of our human race. We humans are not powerful among the myriad races. We can only be considered an ordinary race. However, it doesn't mean that we're the kind of weak race that doesn't react when our clansmen are bullied. If those people of foreign races want to fight, let's fight. When Xian Yuani finished speaking, his ancient voice seemed to be filled with killing intent that had been accumulated for 10,000 years. When the other human big shots heard this, they also looked like they were bound by a common hatred for the enemy and were filled with killing intent. Zhou was stunned. It had to be said when he heard that these human big shots were willing to start a war with the people of foreign races to protect him. His heart warmed a little. Yes, I have never been alone. I still have the entire human race behind me. We will help you fight again those people of foreign races that have ill intentions towards you. But you can't relax either. You have to develop well. We will look forward to the day when you can personally lead your army to fight against the enemy people of foreign races. Xian Yuani said with a smile. I've always been fighting against the people of foreign races. I'll always fight against them, both now and in the future. Zhou said in a low voice. Xian Yuani and the others immediately smiled when they heard this. Baihe's expression was also rather gratified. Everyone chatted for a while. When the banquet was about to end, an old granny walked up to Zhou and sized her up kindly. Young man, you're so handsome. No wonder my disciple often talks about you. She laughed. Senior's disciple is? Zhou was stunned. My name is Lingro, and my title is Holy Light Physician King. She laughed. So you're Miss Lu's teacher. Zhou immediately reacted and said respectfully. He had no choice but to be respectful. This was a famous doctor of the human race. Be it medical ethics or medical skills, they were already at the forefront of human doctors. Many human experts had been treated by her, and she had even saved their lives. Therefore, even though her strength was ordinary among heroes, her connections were terrifying. How is the little girl now? Holy Light Physician King Ling Ro said with a smile. She's fine. I'll bring you there later if you want to see her. Zhou said. Just as well. Let's see what charm your territory has. My disciple is actually unwilling to return to my place. Ling Ro smiled. Zhou scratched his head awkwardly. He couldn't be blamed for this. It was Lu Kaier who volunteered to stay with him. Another half an hour passed. The banquet ended. The human big shots left one after another. It's getting late. You should go back and rest early. When most of them had left, Bai He came to Zhou's side and said, There's no hurry. Zhou looked at Bai He and said, Temple Lord, I have a resurrection spot in my hands now. Do you have any hero candidates who want to be resurrected? Joy immediately appeared on Bai He's face upon hearing this. Chapter 496 Son of the Star. Li Xingguang in the corridor of the Night Temple. The human big shots walked towards the spatial teleportation array one after the other. As the higher-ups of the human race, they had to deal with countless matters every day. If not for the fact that the divine artifact of the race was really important today, they would not have taken the time to come here. At this moment, the dozen or so elder ones who had fallen behind looked at each other and hesitated for a few seconds. In the end, they quickly caught up to Xian Yuanyi, who was walking in front. Speaker, why? Just as these people were about to say something, they saw Xian Yuanyi say as he walked, Which do you think is more important, the divine artifact of a race, or the Lord of the Blazing Sun himself? The human big shots were stunned. They hesitated for a moment before saying, Lord of the Blazing Sun. The Lord of the Blazing Sun, of course. It's true that the Lord of the Blazing Sun is the most important, but the divine artifact of the race is also very important. Furthermore, it's very difficult for the Lord of the Blazing Sun to protect this race divine artifact now. If it can be in our hands, we should at least protect it well, and not let it be snatched away by other races. The big shots of the human race said. They naturally knew that the Lord of the Blazing Sun was definitely more important than the two. The God of Race's divine artifact was obtained by the Lord of the Blazing Sun with his own abilities. It was not obtained by luck. If it was someone else, they would definitely think of a way to obtain this race divine artifact. But for the former, this only proved that the Lord of the Blazing Sun was more valuable than the race's divine artifact. That's what I thought. Therefore, I decided to let the Lord of the Blazing Sun keep his race's divine artifact for himself. Us seniors of the human race should not do those things that will disappoint the hearts of outstanding juniors. The future of the human race belongs to them after all. Xian Yuanyi said in a low voice. Furthermore, the Lord of the Blazing Sun has only been in our high continent for a short period of time. It's so short that he doesn't have too many emotional ties with the entire human race. To him, the ones with the deepest connection are the subjects under his command, and the human branch behind him the humans of Cerulean Planet. If we use the righteousness of the entire human race to persuade him to hand over the race's divine artifact now, I'm afraid that even if he can hand it over in the end, it will aggravate the friendship that the Night Temple has painstakingly accumulated with him during this period of time. That's not worth it. Xian Yuanyi sighed. The big shots of the human race fell silent. Someone wanted to say, Is this Lord of the Blazing Sun worth treating so seriously and cautiously? However, when he thought of the Lord of the Blazing Sun's achievements during this period of time, he suppressed his thoughts. This Lord of the Blazing Sun had really done something that the human race had never done in the past tens of thousands of years. He was indeed worth being treated seriously and cautiously by Xian Yuanyi and the other human big shots, just based on these achievements and the potential in future. Otherwise, once the other party felt disgusted, Their relationship turning cold would be a small matter. They were afraid that the other party would throw themselves into the arms of other races and deal with the humans instead. That would be the most regretful and uncomfortable. Inform all the human factions. From now on, immediately start preparing for battle, and prepare for the battle of the race's divine artifacts that might descend at any time. Once there's a war, remember to send the news to this kid, and let him know what we've done for him. In case the war is over, and this kid still doesn't know what's going on, then we'll have worked for nothing. Xian Yuani said. Yes, Speaker. Understood. I'll make the arrangements as soon as I get back. On the other side, after hearing Zhou Zhou's words, he immediately planned to bring Zhou Zhou to the Heroic Spirit Hall. Where are you going in a hurry? At this moment, Holy Light Physician King Ling Ro walked over and asked with a smile. When he saw her, his gaze became much gentler. This kid can resurrect a hero now. I plan to let him resurrect someone. He said. I want to take a look too. Is that okay? The Holy Light Physician King was instantly curious. She had heard that this Lord of the Blazing Sun had a way to revive people before she came. As a doctor, she was naturally quite curious about this. Even though her medical skills were superb, it was not to the extent of being able to revive from the dead after all. He looked at Zhou Zhou. Sure. Zhou Zhou nodded and agreed. The fact that he could revive people was no longer a secret among the upper echelons of the human race anymore. If she wanted to see it, she could. In any case, there was nothing to be ashamed of. Then, the three of them did not waste any more time, and arrived at the Heroic Spirit Hall. Greetings, Temple Lord. Greetings, Physician King. We meet again, Lord of the Blazing Sun. The Lord Guardian of the Hidden Sea said with a smile. He and the Holy Light Physician King nodded before entering the Heroic Spirit Hall. Greetings, Lord Guardian of the Hidden Sea. Zhou Zhou nodded with a smile and followed them in. The Lord Guardian of the Hidden Sea clicked his tongue in wonder. As the Night Temple, and even the holy land of the entire human race, very few people came to the Heroic Spirit Hall. However, ever since they had the Lord of the Blazing Sun as a neighbor, this little fellow had almost become a regular here. In the Heroic Spirit Hall. After he brought him, and the Holy Light Physician King in, he quickly walked towards the east. Soon, they arrived in front of a heroic spirit statue. He looked at the statue, and didn't speak for a long time. The Holy Light Physician King also had a complicated expression. Zhou Zhou looked at the statue. This was a young boy who was only 7 or 8 years old. He was dressed in white, and a star that emitted a faint white light floated in his hand. Above his head, countless stars hung high. The starlight fell on his body, making this young man look a little magical. He looked at the hero information displayed on the divine calming stone. Low-tier deity level hero child of star. The son of the star was originally called Li Xingguang. When this youth was born, there was already a phenomenon. It was said that originally, there were no stars in the sky that night. It looked like an ordinary night without stars. However, with Li Xingguang's birth, countless stars suddenly appeared in the originally dark night sky. They emitted a dazzling light as they descended from the sky, and entered the infant Li Xingguang's body. Li Xingguang, who was originally an ordinary person, became an extraordinary tier professional starlight envoy, after being transformed by starlight, without needing a class change certificate. At that time, everyone was stunned by this situation. Not only was Li Xingguang not frightened to tears by the scene in front of him like ordinary children, he also laughed and reached out his hand, wanting to grab the starlight surrounding him. Then, under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he really grabbed the wisps of starlight. In his hands, the high and mighty starlight was like a small pet, circling around his hand and body. His parents named him Li Xingguang 1. Xingguang means starlight. After seeing this scene, in the days that followed, more and more miracles appeared on Li Xingguang's body. He was born with knowledge, photographic memory, high IQ, high EQ, and could absorb starlight to cultivate and increase his strength. All kinds of miracles made Li Xingguang's legend spread further and further. In the end, it finally attracted the attention of the upper echelons of the human race. Chapter 497 By He's favor. Resurrection. By he was the first to find him. By he proposed to take him in as a disciple, when he was 9 years old faced with the well-known Li Xingguang. 9 years old was the most suitable age to teach him in By he's eyes. Before that, he wanted Li Xingguang to enjoy his rare childhood. The smart Li Xingguang immediately agreed when he heard this request. Since then, Li Xingguang lived until he was 8 years old without any accidents under the secret protection of the higher-ups of the human race. The most shocking thing was Li Xingguang even became a hero, with a low-tier deity-level hero fate-level slot, when he was 5 years old, through his own comprehension. He had become such a hero at such a young age. That meant that Li Xingguang's potential was definitely not limited to this. In the eyes of many higher-ups of the human race, it was very likely that Li Xingguang would become a high-level god-tier hero in the future, or even a true god-tier hero. However, just before Li Xingguang was about to acknowledge Bai He as his teacher, a true god-tier foreign race, which had a deadly feud with Bai He, appeared and killed Li Xingguang, who was rushing over to become Bai He's disciple. During this process, countless human experts who were secretly protecting Li Xingguang took action to stop it. There was even a true god-tier hero present, but he was unable to protect Li Xingguang. It was all too fast. In addition, there was a difference in strength. This true god-tier foreign race was also good at assassination methods. They were unable to stop the other party from assassinating Li Xingguang. And so when Bai He rushed over, he only saw Li Xingguang's corpse, which had already turned lifeless. Zhou Zhou fell silent after reading the hero's message. He became a hero at the age of 5 through self-realization. This potential and comprehension could no longer be described as exaggerated. It was not a problem to say that he was one of the top human geniuses in the history of the human race. Unfortunately, such a new star of the human race had ushered in a tragic ending. Zhou Zhou's gaze landed on Bai He, who was still in a daze. He finally knew why this human big shot had such an expression. So it was his disciple. Moreover, he was a disciple with such high potential. At this moment, Bai He turned around to look at him. Your resurrection spot can be used on this son of the star. I'm sure you've read his hero profile. But I'll tell you one thing. Even though he's a disciple I have yet to take in, it was not my decision alone to revive him. It's a joint decision of the entire human race after unanimous discussion. The higher-ups of the human race unanimously agreed that Li Xingguang's character, potential, background, and other aspects perfectly met the requirements to be selected for the resurrection spot. That's why he became one of the 3 resurrection spots. He explained. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. What happened to the true god tier of the people of foreign race, who assassinated Li Xingguang in the end? I hunted him down over 26 worlds, and finally killed him in the interlayer of space, Bai He said calmly. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. At this moment, Bai He suddenly stretched out his right hand. There was a golden token in his palm with the word ride written on it. A hint of sadness flashed across Bai He's eyes upon seeing this token. I gave this token to Li Xingguang back then. I asked him to use this token to find me as his master when he was 9 years old. It's one of the things he left behind. Can you use it as a resurrection medium? He restrained his emotions and asked. It shouldn't be a problem. Zhou Zhou took a look and said. Bai He handed the token to him. If we can successfully revive Li Xingguang, I'll owe you one. He said solemnly. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. This was a favor from a true god-tier hero. Moreover, he held a high position in the human race. One could imagine the weight of his favor. Temple Lord, you are too kind. The 3 resurrection spots were originally agreed upon between us. Zhou Zhou said politely. Bai He shook his head and remained silent. I'll bring Li Xingguang to you. Seeing this, Zhou Zhou didn't say anything else. He brought the token and holy light physician King Ling, Ro out of the heroic spirit hall, and walked towards the shelter of the goddess of life. The shelter of the goddess of life. In the main hall. After Zhou Zhou briefly explained his purpose for coming to Carol Moeli, he handed the token and Holy Spirit tier scarlet crystals to her. Leave it to me, my lord. Carol Moeli said respectfully. Then, her gaze landed on the holy light physician king behind Zhou Zhou. Madam, I'll be presiding over the great resurrection spell. The gaze of God will descend here. At that time, please don't do anything blasphemous. Otherwise, the consequences are not something you can imagine. Carol Moeli said solemnly. She was a person of faith. Naturally, she would not be afraid to warn the other person, just because of the other party's identity. She would say whatever needed to be said. Of course. Ling Rose said with a smile. Carol Moeli nodded. Then, she came to the statue of the goddess of life solemnly, and began to preside over the ritual of the Great Resurrection spell. The ritual process was naturally the same as the Great Resurrection spell ritual that Zhou had experienced previously. However, when the pressure of the goddess of life descended, the smile on Ling Rao's face finally changed. There was fear and shock. There was also desire and surprise. A moment later, the Great Resurrection spell ended. A naked 8-year-old boy was lying quietly on a stone bed condensed from light elementals. Zhou didn't look at her, and went straight to Carol Moeli. How are you? He asked. I'm fine. His strength is only at white platinum tier advanced grade. It's quite easy for me to revive him. Carol Moeli looked at the Lord in front of her, and shook her head. She was now an extraordinary tier intermediate grade cardinal. The highest she could be resurrected was a hero with extraordinary tier intermediate grade strength, when the target was alive. Before Li Xingguang died, he was only a white platinum tier advanced grade. It was naturally very simple for her to revive. Zhou acknowledged. Then, he came in front of Li Xingguang, and used the object control technique to send him a set of clothes that he had already prepared. Then he checked his information. Subject, Li Xingguang, Hero Unit. Hero Title, Son of the Star. Position, Low-tier Deity Level Hero Fate Level. Territory, None Strength Level. White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Ability Overview. The young man blessed by the stars was born with the ability to control the power of the stars. He was gifted and was born with knowledge. His personality was gentle and kind, but his fate was full of misfortune. In the end, he died at the hands of the true god tier of the foreign races. Now that he has been revived by the Lord of the Blazing Sun, he has begun his new journey of fate. Bloodline. Human bloodline, true god tier advanced grade, 100%. Skills. Talent star protection, talent body of the star, hero skill star in the palm, hero skill star domain, white advanced grade starlight protection, white platinum tier advanced grade star transformation, white platinum tier advanced grade starlight healing technique, white platinum star divination. Loyalty. Unable to check. Potential. True god tier advanced grade. Hero biography. 1. When you were born, you were protected by the star protection. You were born with the wisdom to know. Human reputation plus 10,000. High continent reputation plus 1. 2. As he grows up, he will gradually understand the Tao of stars and become a low-tier deity level hero son of stars. Human reputation plus 100,000. High continent reputation plus 10. Chapter 498. Li Xingguang gradually opened his confused eyes under Zhou's gaze. His irises were very strange. They were 7-colored, and looked a little dreamy. Big brother, you are? He sat up and looked at Zhou in confusion. Am I not dead? I'm the Lord of the Blazing Sun. My real name is Zhou. On your way to become a disciple, you were assassinated by a true god tier of the people of foreign races. Now I've revived you. Hurry up and get up. Your teacher is waiting for you. Zhou smiled. This child was soft-spoken. He looked quite likable coupled with his cute appearance. If he was placed on the Cerulean planet, who knew how many girls would like this little boy? I've been revived. Li Xingguang blinked and quickly calmed down. He smiled. Thank you, big brother. Xingguang will never forget your kindness. If you need any help from Xingguang in the future, please ask Xingguang to come and help. He said sincerely. Zhou had high-level telepathy, so he could naturally sense that the other party was speaking the truth. This child is really sensible. No wonder the description of his abilities said that he was gentle and kind. Zhou sighed. In addition, this child's ability to accept things was shocking. He actually accepted the fact that he was resurrected so quickly. Sure. If I need any help in the future, I'll definitely call you over. He chuckled and stroked Li Xingguang's hair. This little fellow was extremely talented. He might be able to reach by his level in the future, as long as he grows up. Zhou did not have many thoughts about benefits. His attitude towards this little fellow was similar to his attitude towards Xiao Xian. He had the care and concern of an elder for a younger brother, and an elder for a junior. This is for you. Zhou thought for a moment, and took out the Wind Thunder Demon Lord puppet he had obtained previously, and gave it to Li Xingguang. He had forgotten to give it to Linger when he was with her previously. He would think about it next time. He would not lack good things in the future with his King of Lutes. Thank you, big brother. Li Xingguang's eyes lit up when he received the puppet. Even though he had the wisdom of being born with knowledge, he was only a 9-year-old child. Naturally, he could not resist the temptation of a child's toy. Zhou smiled when he saw this, and told him the function of this thing. When Li Xingguang heard this, he immediately felt that this big brother in front of him was really good. He still had the memory of being assassinated by the people of foreign race in his mind, so he had a huge shadow in his heart. Hence, he really liked the gift brother Zhou gave him. At this moment, Holy Light Physician King Ling Ro walked over. Little guy, do you remember me? She said gently. Grandma Ling. Li Xingguang's eyes lit up. This could be considered as leaving a way out for his heroes. In any case, the Night Temple did not stipulate when all the resurrection heroes would be completed before a specific period. When he had the 2nd and 3rd Holy Spirit tier Faith Divine crystals in the future, he would revive them. Sure. My favor will always count. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. But he didn't try to persuade him to stay. Zhou nodded. Big brother Zhou, can I come to you in the future? Li Xingguang was reluctant to part with Zhou. Of course. Zhou ruffled his hair with a smile on his face. A smile appeared on Li Xingguang's face. Don't call me Temple Lord in the future. If you're willing, just call me Uncle Bai. Bai, he suddenly said. You can also call me Aunt Ling. Ling Ro smiled as well. Zhou was stunned as his gaze landed on Bai He and Ling Ro. Good God. There was a bit of gossip between these two seniors. On the surface, he didn't show any neglect and immediately said, Uncle Bai. Aunt Ling. They both smiled and nodded. When Rob Allen saw this, the intimacy in his eyes intensified. After that, everyone didn't say anything else. Bai He and the others returned to the Night Temple, and prepared to make arrangements for Li Xingguang's discipleship. As the Hall Master of the Knight's Sacred Hall, and one of the highest-ranking members of the human race, Bai He naturally wouldn't be able to take in a disciple so easily. Otherwise, Rob wouldn't have been able to obtain a related hero biography just by becoming a disciple. As for Zhou, he returned to his beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. Chapter 499 Battle Report. Extreme Dragon City's Harvest. In the beginner-grade Lord's Paradise. The moment Zhou returned, he knew that Lu Rui and Zhang Lanxing wanted to see him. He arranged for them to meet in the conference room. Reporting to my lord. The Starfire mercenary team has obtained the current battle report of the Taiyan Kingdom. We also have a special piece of information to report. Lu Rui said respectfully. As the leader of the Starfire mercenary team, the current Lu Rui no longer had the immaturity she had when they first met. She had a valiant, heroic, mature and capable temperament. Let's talk about the battle report of the Taiyan Kingdom first. Zhou said. Yes. The monster soldiers left in the Aurora Kingdom, ever since the Ice Soul Arrow Demon died. They were no longer able to attack the Aurora Kingdom. They have already retreated to the territory of the Taiyan Kingdom. With the reinforcement of this batch of troops, the Taiyan Kingdom still has about 1 million monsters left. There are still about 1.5 million Titan Kingdom's monster soldiers in the Taiyan Kingdom. Right now, both sides are still fighting each other in the Taiyan Kingdom. There wouldn't be a winner for the time being. However, overall, if the time is extended, the Taiyan Kingdom might use its territory advantage to wear down the army of the giant Roar Kingdom that is left in the country. Lu Rui reported. Zhou nodded. Extend the time? We're down. He chuckled inwardly. He will deal with both of them tomorrow. Of course, he He could also do nothing and wait for both of them to suffer losses before sitting back and reaping the benefits. But there were two things that were not right. Number one, the war was ever-changing. The longer it lasted, the more variables there were. Now that this situation was still beneficial to him, he should seize the opportunity and attack quickly to obtain the results he wanted. Otherwise, if this dragged on for too long, who could guarantee that no accidents would happen? It was good to be a fisherman, but he had to stop while he was ahead. Otherwise, it might backfire. Second, the 3 days left by the Supreme Will were too short. He had to seize the time to defeat the Taiyan kingdom and obtain enough territory before establishing the number one kingdom of the human race on the cerulean planet. Therefore, he had no time to be a fisherman. What's the other special intel? Zhou asked. Our adventurer team stationed in the Netherbark Kingdom discovered that the Netherbark Legion seems to be acting strangely, but we don't know what they're doing. Their movements are very secretive. We can't find much information for the time being. Lu Rui said. Zhou's heart skipped a beat. The Netherbark army of the Netherbark Kingdom actually made a move at this moment? That was the first legion of the Underworld Bark Kingdom. Their actions were not a small matter. What do you have in mind? Zhou's gaze landed on Lu Rui. I don't have any specific information. I don't dare to discuss it rashly. Lu Rui said. Tell me about it. It's fine. This isn't a specific military meeting. Zhou shook his head. Reporting to my lord. Then he'll be bold to say it. This is a special time for the war between the two countries. The Netherbark Kingdom actually made such a move. I think they want to secretly attack the Taiyan Kingdom. Didn't you say that the Netherbark Kingdom is holding the God-bestowing ceremony? Zhou suddenly asked. Yes, the God-bestowing ceremony is real, and so are the actions of the Netherbark army. Lu Rui said. Zhou nodded. Lu Rui's guess was basically the same as his. If what Lu Rui said is true, then he'll lead my troops to attack the Taiyan Kingdom tomorrow. Once I appear, I might really be easily used by the Netherbark Kingdom hidden in the dark. At that time, the Netherbark Kingdom will become a true fisherman. But if I could be late, when the time comes, the Taiyan Kingdom, the Titan Kingdom, and the Netherbark Kingdom will all become fishes in my fishing net. I can totally wipe out the armies they sent. Zhou's eyes lit up. The 3 legions under his command had more than 45 million troops. In addition to the 92 million troops of the Star Alliance, it added up to nearly 4 million soldiers. Even if he needed to leave some soldiers to guard the territory, he could command 7 million soldiers. With these 7 million soldiers, and his more than 3,000 superhumans, and many powerful heroes, what were the monster soldiers of the 3 kingdoms in the Taiyan Kingdom? He could easily crush them. They would all be converted into 2,000% additional promotion energy, and a huge amount of loots. When the time comes, the Taiyan Kingdom was naturally at his fingertips. Then, he would make a trip to the Aurora Kingdom, and take in the Aurora Kingdom. He would directly obtain the national strength of 2 existing kingdoms. At that time, using this as a starting point, it would not be difficult to advance to the intermediate grade kingdom. He couldn't help but feel a little hot in his heart, and even a little lightheaded. After wallowing in this feeling for a while, Zhou suddenly woke up. He suddenly remembered that his current situation seemed to be very good. There were countless resources inside and human support outside. However, there were also many hidden dangers around him. Not to mention the problem of the myriad races coveting the divine artifacts of the races. The influence of the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, was probably not inferior to the divine artifact of the Lucky Star race. Most importantly, he had become the number 1 in the myriad races Lord battlefield. Through the announcement of the 10,000 races, countless Lord factions, and even local factions had already learned of his existence. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. Zhou felt that he was the most eye-catching tree in the Forest of Lords. From now on, he had to withstand the omnipresent gusts of wind from all directions. If he could withstand it, he would naturally be a dragon in the sky with a limitless future. If he could not withstand it, sooner or later, he and his territory might be eaten by the lords of the myriad races. I still need to develop, continuously become stronger. I can't slack off at all. Only then can I protect myself and my territory when danger comes, Zhou thought to himself. At this moment, Aaliyah hurried over. Reporting to my lord. Extreme Dragon Horus is requesting an audience outside the city, she said respectfully. Zhou was stunned and nodded. Then, he walked out of the beginner-grade lord's paradise and flew to the city wall of the Supreme Defense. Greetings, my lord. Horus flew in the air and said respectfully, "What can I do for you?" Zhou asked. Reporting to my lord. The spaceship I sent to receive Extreme Venerable City's assets and subjects has returned. This is the list that I've just summarized. Please take a look, my lord. Horus said. Then, a list appeared out of thin air and flew in front of Zhou. Zhou's eyes lit up. He naturally remembered that after Horus submitted to him, he sent an Extreme Dragon Race member to take a spaceship to Horus Lord's territory to receive the property there and the subjects of the Extreme Dragon Race, who were in charge of guarding the territory. He didn't expect them to be back so soon. He took the list and looked at it. Extreme Dragon Race 3. Construction materials. 50 billion units of wood, 50 billion units of fine sand, 50 billion units of metal, 50 billion units of stone, 500,000 units of basic elemental gems, 1,000 units of high-level elemental gems. Mist cores. 136,355,200 black iron tier mist cores, 10,015,521 green bronze tier mist cores, 861,200 white silver tier mist cores, 102,511 yellow gold tier mist cores, 1,041 white platinum tier mist cores, 1 diamond tier mist core. Skill books. 1,265,570. Equipment. 650,000. Zhou glanced at the other useless resources. After reading it, Zhou shook his head. It is just as though it could not be compared to him, the king of loots. It was just that there were too many construction resources. Why are you collecting so many basic building resources? Zhou asked doubtfully. My lord, as you can see, our Extreme Dragon Race is considered one of the largest in the entire dragon race. If we don't collect so many construction resources, we won't have anywhere to live. This is already considered a small amount. Horus said awkwardly. Zhou. It made it sound like there was indeed nothing wrong with it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.